Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and I do fascinating things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer, and I'm joined this week, as I am every week, by my two friends who bring MMA industry to new heights. Introducing to you first, from New York, wearing the pride hat, Mark Priaulx. What is up, Mark?
What is up? We have just finished dealing with a new litany of audio and technical issues. This is apparently becoming the norm for us every week, but this time we seem to have figured it out before the show has begun. So hopefully you guys will have a smooth listening experience this week, unlike the latter portion of last week's show.
That's right. And introducing next, from Florida, the sunshine, he is La Pesadilla de Nicaraguense, Omar Artola. And if you're wondering, that means the Nicaraguan mayor.
What is going on? Another day. I decided to finally get some rollerblades for the first time in, I don't know, close to 2 decades at this point, and almost broke my ass a couple times. My wife got a bike, and so we did a little Edward Scissorhands thing and just kind of went around the neighborhood, and it was nice. It was very nice. My legs are on fire, but it was good.
I'm sure they are.
That's good.
Nice, dude.
That's solid.
Did you wipe out? Did you wipe out?
I did not. I don't think I can wipe out like I used to. I think if I go down, I'm gonna get fucked up, man. I don't think it'll be good like it was when we were kids. You could get a couple scrapes and you're good to go. I think I'll break something if I fall now.
Dude, I think that all the time. Like this summer I was teaching Lucas how to ride a bike. And I'm like, if I ever fell the way he falls, I would be fucking dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kids' bones are just different.
Yeah, man. I feel different now, too. I'm like, I can't fall anymore. That's not a thing. It cannot happen. Yeah. It can't happen in the shower, out in public.
Do you fall often in showers?
No, I'm afraid to fall, though. I'm like, falling can't happen anymore.
Oh, man.
I get swept all the time at the gym, and that's as much falling as I plan on doing for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, well, at least there you're on a mat.
Yeah.
Valid.
If you're over my shoulder here, for those who cannot see, if you're listening on the podcast, over my shoulder I have one of my APFC cards right here on my shelf from this past weekend. Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship. Which one is this? Oh, this is a blank. This is one of my blanks. But I got it right there, baby. It was a great event at Franklin Field in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Got to meet the man himself, Showtime Pettis, nicest guy. Got to meet Duke Rufus, nicest guy. Shout out to Mike Davis, play-by-play. Everybody who was involved. Damien, sort of the director of operations. It was a great night. The weather held up. It was pretty risky, man. My first time ever doing an event like that outdoors at a baseball stadium. But it was perfect weather. It was like room temperature outside. Exciting night of fights. 9 fights, 9 finishes. So the judges had the night off. It was great, man. It was great.
That is great.
Can't wait to be back on the mic for them again this coming either October or November. Either back in Milwaukee or possibly Las Vegas. Ooh.
Sick. Did you get to shake Pettis' hand, or was it too broken?
I gave him like a little half little pinky swear kind of thing.
Okay. So you're boys.
We're boys now.
Yeah.
We're boys.
It's official.
Yeah, absolutely. And he gave me a Cartier, and that was it. I'm kidding.
Hey.
I was like, wait, what?
I wish.
Well,
gentlemen,
did you tell him about the show? And did he express interest in joining?
I did not get a chance.
Okay, next event. We'll work our way up.
The thing about Anthony Pettis is that he's such a celebrity. He's such a star. Immediately after the main event, when the night was over, basically like a wedding-style receiving line formed to just take pictures with Anthony Pettis.
Believe it.
Did he?
And he
Did
just took
he
it.
take
He
off
took
his
it into the
sunglasses?
cage.
Did he take
He
off
did.
his sunglasses?
He did. He
Good
did.
man.
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah, he took it into the cage. So there was just like a full line of like a couple of hundred people just waiting to get his picture. So I eventually just snuck in there. I said, "Hey, thanks so much. I'll see you."
Oh, that was when you met him? Jeez.
No, it wasn't the first time I met him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I met him the night before at the weigh-ins.
That's what I figured, that you met him.
Yeah,
prior.
man.
Nice.
But it was cool.
It's dope.
It was
It's
cool.
dope.
Well, folks, we have quite a bit to get to on this show tonight. We are going to start, as we always do, with our first segment on the marquee. It's going to be somebody from this past weekend's UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Cruz. We're going to discuss a few other fights from that fight night. We're also going to get a quick PFL recap as well as Bellator recap from Mark. We're going to find out who rose and fell in our very own rankings system. We're going to find out what's new in the headlines in MMA from Omar. And then we're going to look ahead to this coming weekend. We have more PFL action. And we have pay-per-view, UFC 278, Usman versus Edwards 2. And then maybe we'll end with a little bit of trivia. Before we get to any of that, gentlemen, I want to take a moment to anybody who's listening and or watching and just say thank you. Thank you, guys. Mark, Omar, and I have been talking MMA in depth for almost a decade. Or like, if it's not a decade, we're getting close to it.
We're getting close to it for sure.
Yeah.
So, we've always been having these conversations, and now the only thing that's different is that now we're recording it and we're inviting you guys in, and everybody who has joined us has been just a pleasure. And the comments, the subscribers, the interactions we've had on social media. That being said, if you're watching this right now on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already, if you like what you've been watching. If you want audio only, hey, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, join us in the conversation on social media. You can find us on all the socials at @andnew_MMA show. That being said, let's get into this episode, guys. All right, this week, the name on the marquee has got to be Marlon Chito Vera, who this past weekend at the Pechanga Arena in San Diego, California, at UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Cruz, defeated Dominick, the Dominator Cruz, by knockout, by vicious head kick in the 4th round. Mark, let me throw it over to you first. What was your reaction to Chito Vera's huge win over the legend Dominick Cruz?
God, I love this fight so much. Just the juxtaposition of the fighters and the fight styles was so captivating. And we saw it play out. Chito started slow, as he tends to do. Dom came out hot. He's moving, he's landing. He's the one that has the round winning style. And he was certainly winning the early rounds. But in the midst of it, you see that power difference. It was always apparent the whole time. It was always right there. Whenever Chito lands one clean, Dom is dropping, Dom is getting wobbled. So that contrast in fight styles between the two of them was just so intriguing. Had you on the edge of your seat the whole fight. And then obviously in the end on this night, it was Chito who came out on top. He finally lands a shot so big that Dom couldn't get up. But there's a lot of different points I want to make here in regard to this fight. We'll start with Dominick Cruz. I thought he looked great. Like, there is absolutely zero part of me that thinks he's too old or too worn or too anything that he can't compete against these top guys. Like, I heard a few people say like, oh, like that's it for Dom Cruz. I mean, not, people on Twitter, I mean, not experts, but that's it for Dom Cruz. The guy's washed, blah, blah, blah. He looked fantastic in there almost the whole fight long against a killer. I have no reason to think he can't continue to compete with top 10 bantamweights. He's still stunningly fast. He was landing so often on Chito. And if Dominick Cruz had any power at all, he may have never lost a fight in his life because he lands so often, he just can't hurt anybody. But that man is still a factor in this division despite the loss. As for Chito, I friggin' love this guy so much. As a fan, it's impossible not to love him because first off, as everyone knows, the guy is the man, plain and simple. But secondly, from a fan perspective, his fight style is so incredible because you see him in there just thinking and calculating and studying and processing, and he's not throwing, and he starts to give you those nerves that maybe he's letting the fight get away from him and he's dropping the rounds. But you also know that, like, if it goes the way Cheeto intends it to go, it's not going to matter that he's dropping the rounds because he's going to finish it before we get to the scorecards. And it just keeps you like so on the edge of your seat the whole time you watch him fight. But the point I want to make on the flip of it, as much as I love it as a fan, if I'm a coach, if I'm Cheeto's coach, I don't love it. We are hitting a point now where these guys are too good at the top. And yes, it worked this time, but he can't keep dropping 2 rounds and forcing himself to either go 3-0 or to finish somebody. Like, how many guys do you know that drop early rounds that are champions? I can't think of any. I was trying to think of this earlier. The only person that came to my mind was Brian Ortega, who's fought for a title. He does that, but he's never even won a title. So when you are at the highest of high levels, and that is unmistakably where Cheeto is now, guys who lose rounds don't tend to win titles. So I hope that Cheeto can find a way to just tweak this a little bit, get a little more active, start a little sooner, because I think he needs it to truly reach the top. I mean, you never know if he just keeps knocking everyone out. Obviously, it's not going to matter, and who knows, maybe he will. But as a Cheeto fan, I want to see him find a way to not be in 0-2 holes all the time. But obviously here he pulled it off. The finish was perfect. Dom has always had those odd exits, like the big head movement, dropping the head. It's honestly kind of surprising that no one has caught him this bad before with the way he drops his head on the exits like that and kind of rolls it. But Cheeto saw it. He read it. He flicked the jab out to move Dom into it, and bang, perfectly placed head kick right across the nose. You see the nose break on the slow-mo. Good night, Dom. And the violent march of Marlon Cheeto Vera continues.
Omar, what was your reaction to Cheeto Vera knocking out Dominick Cruz in the way that he did in front of the 12,000 strong in San Diego?
My first 2 reactions were, damn, we are fucking good at our analysis. That was the first. And secondly, I'm a dumbass for having picked decision, knowing full well by the time I started watching that fight, there was no way Cheeto Vera was going to outpoint Dominick Cruz.
Did I say 4th round?
You did say 4th round.
I have the card right here.
He had the perfect pick.
Nice.
Yeah.
I also said.
Nice.
Very nice. I think I had a lot of faith that Dominick Cruz would just not go to sleep, but at the end of the day, that was the only way. Yeah. This is the only way, though, that Cheeto was going to win. So if I thought Cheeto was going to win, I probably should have gone by some kind of knockout at some point.
Dom was doing his best to make you right, Omar.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, what we talked about last week was inherently 100% what came true. Because last week we discussed Dominick Cruz needs to be 100% with the game that he plays. He cannot fuck up with the game that he plays. And it's been like that. This is not like this is a new thing. And, you know, I would agree with Mark that I don't think he's washed, but I also don't think he's better than he was when he was at his peak. I think
I don't think that either.
But I think he has lost a step. And I think as a result of that, one, people have a lot more tape on him to study his movements. And it's not as neo as it was back in the day. This is not some sort of unknown foot style that like people can't figure out at this point. People have figured it out. People will probably continue to figure it out. Different people will have to do it different ways. Cheeto was never going to outmove him. Cody Garbrandt outmoved the shit out of him. Cody Garbrandt was able to essentially out Dominick Cruz. Cheeto was never going to be able to do that. That's not his style. It's not his game. His body frame, frankly, probably won't even allow that to happen against somebody like Dominick Cruz. And so Cheeto played to his strength, which was his strengths, his power, the solid strikes that he ends up throwing. And you saw, and I think I said it last week, that the man throws just as powerful as any bantamweight there with minimal effort. And you saw a little light check hook. Dom was on the floor. Didn't know what was going on. Got right back up. Tried to get to work. But shut his legs off for a hot minute. And he did that, I think, at least one or two more times before he got cracked in the face with that kick. And the power differential was a real issue. And I think it's more credit to Cheeto that he didn't get discouraged by the end of that second round, because he was losing that fight, legitimately losing that fight. Whether you want to, say that Cheeto wasn't hurt, there wasn't a lot of damage, whatever, Cheeto was losing that fight. That was 2-0 going into the third round.
Yeah, he was down 2-0.
One could argue that Cheeto won the third round, but
yeah, I thought he did.
One could also argue that Dominick Cruz edged the third round out too. It was close. These weren't blowaway rounds by Cheeto, even the ones that, the one that he won. And even in that fourth round, one would argue that Dominick Cruz, while he was slowing down, still had control of that fight. Cheeto's path to victory in that fight was those moments, those opportunities, those holes that Dominick Cruz leaves open, which are very few and far between, but they're there. And he exposed them, I think, as best as he could, took advantage of the situation, and came out on top with a highlight reel knockout for the ages. I don't think Dominick Cruz should be done yet. I do think that he's still top tier as far as I'm concerned, but I do think he needs to realize that his footwork, while effective, is not going to keep him safe 100% of the time. And so I think he's going to need to do some adjustments against guys like Chito Vera. Like we all thought his strength was going to prevail against the man's speed and his movement.
I came away from this fight with different opinions than you two guys. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as say that Dominick Cruz is completely washed up, a la a BJ Penn making his fourth comeback fight and, just getting dominated by, a top 15 guy. I think there are fun fights for Dominick Cruz, but I think that he really won't stand a chance against anybody in the top 5 at bantamweight. So that being said, if he still thinks he wants to try to be a champion, then I think he might walk away. Otherwise, I think there's fun fights for him in the top 10.
You don't think he'd stand a chance against Aljo?
Against Aljo or Aldo?
Aljo, the champion.
Styles make fights. Sterling is not a guy who is known for his knockout power, so that would be interesting. Sterling's wrestling against Cruz's, footwork and boxing would be interesting. But
Sandhagen, you couldn't see him have a scrap with?
No, I think he gets run over by Sandhagen.
I'm not saying I pick him over these guys. I think he can absolutely be matched with them, and it's fair, is what I mean. I think he still deserves these chances, is all I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, to his credit,
we'll
he
get
never
to that
really
when we match him.
He's never really been in a position where we need to fight for his credibility, right? Like the man has always been willing to fight whoever's next and climb right back up that ladder. It's not the first time at this point that he's lost. It is, however, fun fact, the first time that he's lost a non-title fight in the UFC, which is madness considering how long he's been in the UFC.
Amazing.
Wild.
Yes. But we'll get to that when we match these guys up.
Yeah.
That being said,
Were you saying a take on Vera and we cut you off, or?
Overall, in terms of the fight itself, I feel like one of you guys had mentioned that Cruz was in control. I disagree. I mean, he was in control in terms of, yes, on points, but I also felt like the whole time he was just being hunted and he was prey in there, and Marlon Vera was eventually going to eat him, and that's what happened.
I felt that from the mid-third onward. First and second, I thought Cruz was totally controlling.
And to your point, Mark, about Vera needing to correct the problem of dropping early rounds, Vera and Dominick Cruz are completely different fighters in terms of their DNA. They're just, Dominick Cruz is playing a different game than Marlon Vera. Dominick Cruz is the guy, he's looking to win round by round by points. He's going to come away. He's going to earn his wins that way, kind of more of a lunch pail kind of guy. Marlon Vera is in there fighting. Marlon Vera is in there not trying to win points. He's in there trying to fuck you up.
I agree totally, but he did the same exact thing against Rob Font. And what concerns me is just as he's now fighting whoever it may be, fucking Piotr Jan or Sand, whoever it is, I'm just afraid you go out there, you drop the first two.
Yeah.
You're not going to knock this guy out in time, and it makes you have to win 3, 4, 5, which is not easy to do at this level.
Okay.
Yeah.
That being said, Mark, let me just stay with you. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was going to say his cardio, Chito's cardio looked fantastic. Going into the fourth round,
great.
I got to say, Dominick Cruz, and granted, the argument would be made that Dominick Cruz was technically doing more output, but Dominick Cruz looked significantly slower than Chito by the fourth round, and I guess the results are what they were, but Chito's cardio looked fantastic. The man didn't even look like he was sweating.
He's also unhurtable. I know this one was Cruz, who doesn't carry huge power, but like even against Font, even when he lost to Aldo, like the dude just doesn't ever appear to be hurt.
Yeah.
Like he looks like he gets like bounced off of a car or something. Like it's not even like he's like hurt, but it's just he gets pushed back. He's just like, God damn it, I'm trying to go forward. Let me go forward.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. Yes.
Also, before we jump into matching these guys up, I have to say, feather in my cap, I had one of those moments where a thought that I had watching these fights by myself alone, a thought that I had independently in like the second or third round of this fight. Marlon Vera in the post-fight press conference, in those comments he made about Cruz that were somewhat controversial, saying that Cruz was low level. One of the things that he had said was he thought all of the movement that Cruz does would be better for boxing. And I have to say, I thought the exact same thing in the early to mid parts of that fight. I was like, Cruz reminds me almost of like a Lomachenko style guy.
Yeah.
So much movement, so much footwork, bobbing in and out. And I was like, this is more of a boxing style. And I thought maybe Cruz could have been, if Cruz went into boxing instead of MMA, he could have been the American version of Lomachenko.
If you watch
wild because he started as a wrestler.
Right.
If you watch Lomachenko, though, Lomachenko is way more efficient with his movement. Dominick Cruz would need to do that for 10, 12 rounds or something like that. I mean, he slowed down basically by the fourth round, and Lomachenko is way more efficient. The angle cutting, what he does with his quarter turns, his angle cutting, and the way he's able to dodge out of high strikes like punches and hooks and things like that, 100% would be super effective when it comes to the boxing. Obviously, you can see what happens when people are able to kick and knee, but
I don't think Mike was meaning they're similar now. He meant if Cruz had done boxing from jump and solely focused on boxing.
He would have been the Lomachenko before Lomachenko. I got you.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? But it's just reminiscent of. Okay, let's jump into matching these guys up. Let's start with the winner, Marlon Vera. At 135 pounds, I feel like Marlon Vera really is punching his meal ticket to the upper echelon of 135 pounds, arguably the best division in the UFC right now. Mark, if you were the matchmaker, take off that awesome pride hat and put on your matchmaker hat. What are you doing with Marlon Vera next?
So this could go a few ways. Obviously, this weekend coming up, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. We have Jose Aldo against Merab Dvalishvili. If Jose Aldo wins that fight, I truly believe it's got to be him fighting for the title, and it's very hard to argue that considering he did beat Chito. So if that's the case, if Aldo wins that fight, I think you put Marlon across from the winner of Piotr Jan and Sean O'Malley. Either you get a huge rematch against O'Malley or an equally huge fight against Piotr Jan, and probably the winner of that one would end up being the next shot. If Merab wins that fight against Jose Aldo, then it gets a little more messy because who's going to get that next shot? It could be Merab. It could be the Jan O'Malley winner. It could even be Chito. He could go right to the title shot. So if Merab beats Aldo, it's going to be interesting who actually gets that next shot.
Yeah.
But if Aldo does win, then I think you put Chito with the O'Malley Jan winner.
Omar, any other names that you would match Chito Vera up with at bantamweight?
It's a little crowded up there right now. Everybody's either got something going on or, there's not really very many guys to choose from unless you want to start going down, which at this point with Vera's trajectory, you can't go down. So you know, the Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley fight, I guess, is interesting. Like, to Mark's point, that's kind of win-win either way. Peter Yan is going to be a fantastic fight for Marlon Vera to go with. And then if that doesn't work out, the Chito Vera fight is also a rematch that's, I mean, you could probably put that on a pay-per-view in and of itself without any title fight, and it would probably sell. So it's there's some good fights to be had here. My initial thought was to have him fight the loser of the Jose Aldo Dvalishvili fight, because I did figure whoever won that fight would probably get the title shot next, and then I figured Vera would get one more and then potentially go in that direction. That kind of did throw Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley out of the mix, but I also don't think Sean should be fighting for a title that quickly in the first place. Yeah. Bantamweight is messy right now, man. It's messy.
I mean, if Sean beats Peter Yan, you don't think he deserves to fight Chito for the next title shot?
I guess
Yan is a huge fucking win.
I guess it depends, though. Like, if he sleeps Peter Yan, all right, we might have something to talk about. But if it's some controversial decision or some shit, then
it also will depend. Both of those fights, the Aldo fight and the Yan fight, it will depend how the winner wins.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because we really don't have to wait that much longer at this point. You know, we've got the Aldo fight this weekend. We've got less than a month away from the from the TJ Dillashaw Aljamain Sterling fight. I mean, there's a lot of questions that are going to be answered by that time. We'll probably have better picks at that point.
I'll tell you though, if there's a world where, say, Merab just kind of out wrestles Aldo, wins that fight, it's not terribly exciting, but he wins. Say O'Malley beats Yan. Are you going to give O'Malley the title shot already just off beating Yan? It could just, if those two winners happen, I think it's going to be Chito already. I don't think he's even going to have to fight again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? Off beating Dominick Cruz? Wow.
Who would you give it to? You give it to one?
And it's not even just beating Dominick Cruz. It's fucking smashing Dominick Cruz's face all over national TV.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what I mean? Maybe they'd give it. If O'Malley knocked out Yan, maybe just because of the fucking hype, they'd give it to him. But he lost to Chito. It'd be hard to justify giving it to him before giving it to Chito.
I'll tell you this. If Merab is able to wrestle fuck Jose Aldo in a 3-round fight, I give him credit for it, because Jose Aldo's hips work solidly for a minimum 2 rounds. So
we just got to wait and see. There's too much still to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, it might be easier, and we might have more varied results matching up Dominick Cruz at bantamweight, because before this fight, the past 2 guys he has fought were Pedro Munoz and Casey Kenny. And before that, the 2 guys he fought are no longer in bantamweight or even the UFC, being Cejudo and Garbrandt. Before that was Uriah Faber. So there are plenty of names for Dominick Cruz to match up with now at 135 pounds. Omar, why don't you take a stab at it first?
I have a feeling Mark might have a more logical pick.
Mine is coming straight from the heart.
There are many.
I was going to say mine is purely sentimental, so now chances are we have the same exact pick. I want Dominick Cruz to give Frankie Edgar his last fight.
Get him in there.
I want that to be Frankie Edgar's last fight. Frankie Edgar said he wants one more before he's done. I mean, if we go an entire career without Frankie Edgar and Dominick Cruz having fought and being in the same division, that would be a fucking travesty. So
that's it.
I think that's personally one fight that I don't have to worry about Frankie Edgar legitimately getting knocked out to hell in.
Yep.
We can just enjoy some guys moving around with some of the best movement in history, with some of the cleanest strikes, get a good fight going on. I'd be happy with that. Send Frankie Edgar off with a proper fight.
100% agree. I know it's soon. It's November 12th. I don't know if that's too soon for Dom coming off this knockout. I'm afraid that it might be. But, man, retirement fight, Frankie Edgar in MSG. As Omar said, we have these guys out of the fucking blue in the same division now. They're both active. Let's not miss it. Get them in there. Get them across from each other. If they want it to be 5 rounds, it's fucking 5 rounds.
Please,
it's Frank Edgar's retirement fight. Do whatever they want. Put them in there.
Two legends.
And there's no way either one of them would turn it down. Like Dominick Cruz is all about getting the title shot and working his and I get that, but
Yeah,
it's Frankie Edgar, right? And Frankie Edgar, I'm sure, would love to fight a legend like Dom
to lose
Cruz.
this fight.
Yeah.
Oh, Frankie asked
absolutely.
for it. Frankie said that's who he wanted.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I think he knew if Cruz won this fight, he wasn't getting them. But now that Cruz lost, Cruz, he's not in a position where he can demand someone so high ranked. I don't see why he wouldn't take it.
Yeah. It's a good fight. I really hope it happens.
It's just the timing. I'm concerned about the timing and him getting cleared after the KO and all that. But it would be awesome.
Yeah.
A fight that elder millennials would salivate over. There's one other name that I look at 135 pounds that I think could be interesting and could make sense, that being Rob Font. Dom Cruz hasn't fought him yet. He just lost to Cheeto. Rob Font is coming off of back-to-back losses against Aldo and Cheeto himself. What do you guys think? Could that make sense?
I like that matchup, and it does make sense. Yes, that would be a fun one.
So Mike was the one who had the logical pick.
Yeah,
It was Mike with the logical pick. Got it.
Because you don't want to go too far up the rankings, up meaning like into the teens, and give him like an up-and-comer like a Nurmagomedov or a Jack Shore,
right?
Or a Ricky Simone.
Agreed. That's what I meant. That I thought he should fight someone who is still already established, like a Rob Font.
Totally.
But I think the only way he fights people, because
curveballs there,
and I think the only way that you get Cruz to fight guys with names with no star power to that extent would be if they have a number in front of him. That's the only way I think you get him to fight those guys. He's not going to fight Nurmagomedov when he's number 15 and Cruz is number 11, 12, whatever he is.
Right.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Yeah, man. In a fight that we on this show scratched our heads a little bit as to why it was in the co-main event, turned into a classic. That being this featherweight bout between Nate, the Train Landwehr, and David Onama, with Nate Landwehr taking it by a majority decision, with one judge scoring at 28-28 even, and the other two judges giving it to Landwehr 29-27. This fucking fight, guys, making me cuss on this show.
I thought you were saying a different word.
Making me cuss on this show?
Carry on.
Omar, you start this time. What was your reaction as this incredible back and forth war was unfolding before your very eyes?
I mean, I gotta say the first round seemed relatively straightforward, right? It was David Onama doing David Onama things and putting hands on people and making people look like, oh, what have I done stepping in this cage here? And the first round I thought went kind of handily, but we got to a point where David Onama started getting crazy at the end of that first round, and I was like, you're gonna pay for that if you can't close the show right here. You're gonna pay for this, man. This is you're burning here. Did not close the show. Second round comes out. I don't know if they put a firecracker up Nate Landwehr's ass or what they did to that man, but this guy came out and made it seem like the first round didn't even happen. Started tearing Onama up. And it really started and it kind of started going back and forth. I would say Nate got a good amount of strikes in. The second round I still think went for Onama. But Nate Landwehr was fighting back. And by the time we got to the third round, Nate Landwehr was very close to putting Onama out. And that fight was just ridiculously back and forth. I was yelling for all three of those rounds. I think one judge I think had 10-8 round for Onama for Landwehr for the third round.
No.
How did it get scored then?
Every judge gave Landwehr 10-8 in the second round.
Second round, okay. And then the third round was for...
Every judge gave Onama the first. One judge gave Onama the third.
Okay. It was a wild fight. It was an absolutely maddening fight, way back and forth. I do give credit for Onama for even powering through that third round because I did not think he was going to be able to. It's a classic, man. It's a classic that had no business being a classic.
Yeah, man.
It was one of those fights that shined, that had no expectations and lived wholly above anything we would have thought would have happened in that fight. It was legendary.
This is a fight, folks. Just listen to me. I don't get this hype very often, but this fight had me out of my seat, figuratively speaking. If you don't have ESPN Plus, go on ESPN.com right now and pay the $7 just to watch this goddamn fight tonight. Mark, your turn. You go.
Well said. I'll defend us quick first. We were knocking this fight for lacking in star power as a co-main event. The fact that it was a banger, A, is not something we said it couldn't be.
True.
And B, doesn't change my take that it didn't have the star power to be a co-main event. So, with that out of the way, what a fucking fight. What the hell do you even say about this fight? It was fucking insanity. Omar stole my opening point, which was that round one looked pretty much how I thought it was going to look. Like David Onama showed exactly what I thought he'd be able to do to Nate Landwehr. On the face of it, you know, both guys fresh. I think Onama was the more skilled martial artist, but cardio is a motherfucker. And Onama pushed it too hard in round one, and he was fighting a guy who will go all day long. And when your cardio starts to fail you, it doesn't matter how good you are, suddenly you're a lot worse. So that fight changed on a dime in round two. Landwehr just started absolutely bullying a tired Onama around the cage. There were times where he was literally just tossing Onama. Like he would reach out with two hands. They'd be in the maybe not center, but like feet away from the cage. He would reach out with two hands and just put him in the cage. Like he would physically throw him into the cage just so he could work against the cage. He was absolutely bullying him. He was taking him wherever he wanted. He was landing huge shots. To Onama's credit, he was somehow taking him. And then I really thought for a second at the end of round two that James Krause was going to stop the fight. Like he was talking to Onama on the stool. He kept asking him if he wanted to keep fighting. Onama wasn't answering, and I was like, oh, shit, like, this is about to be over. Yeah. But I guess he got just enough of a response from Onama, and he let him go. And it seemed like it was the right call because Onama had more in the tank. He looked like he was dead, and he freaking comes out in round three. And, like, yeah, he was still taking a beating at certain times in round three. But then he kept coming with burst after burst. And there was a couple times where I was like, holy fuck, he's about to swing this fight and still win this thing. Or at least draw this thing because I knew round two was a 10-8. But yeah, the adrenaline was just going crazy for both guys in that third round. Landwehr was feeding off the crowd so much. Then Onama started to get into it. You saw him have a new energy. It was just insanity. Absolutely great fight. Neither guy should hang his head. Obviously, Nate shouldn't, but Onama should not either. And Nate Landwehr announces himself to the world in his 5th UFC fight.
Absolutely, man. In that third round, when he decided to stop ground and pounding, if Onama went down, he would just stand up and he would just, play to the crowd and hype the crowd up.
Yeah,
it was great, man.
Yeah,
it was great.
It was.
Let's talk about, if you guys are okay, let's just talk about Nate Landwehr since he won the fight in terms of where he might go next from here at featherweight. Omar, give me a name that you would be excited to tune back in and see Nate Landwehr fight again.
Let me get my list up real quick.
I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it.
Go ahead.
No, go for it. Go for
it. So as good as he looked, I mentioned it was his 5th fight. He is only 3-2 in the octagon. He lost to Herbert Burns and he lost to Julian Erosa. So you can't treat him like he's a world beater, in my opinion, despite the amazing performance. So you could go a little higher than this. I was thinking, how about Josh Kulabau? He just had a war with Sung Woo Choi himself. He looks really good right now. I think you put those two in there together and you get another surefire scrap. I don't hate going a little higher than that, but I think that one's solid.
Omar?
I will go a little higher than that. And I will go with the boy Billy Q. Nate Landwehr has called him out. Frankly, that stylistic fight is guaranteed to be a banger. Like you could slap 100% guaranteed sticker on that shit. That will be a banger.
Yep.
I love that fight. I don't think Quarantillo has anything going on right now, so I think that's perfect.
I like that a lot.
Very on
I
board
like
with
Billy
that.
Q, 100%. Let's go Cub Swanson. I'm kidding. It does not deserve that yet.
Dude, it'd be fun. But Cub just went down to bantamweight, remember? Who's he
Oh, that's
fighting?
right.
I forget. Remember he got announced in a bantamweight fight? And remember we were like, oh, shit. Fuck, who is it? Now I'm looking. Hold on. Cub got announced against Jonathan Martinez, which is so random, too. Like, we
That
couldn't
is
have a better
random.
bantamweight than that? I
Who
don't
the
know.
fuck was
Whatever.
that?
Yeah. I think you broke it on MMA Hour a few weeks ago. I mean, MMA Sphere, not MMA Hour.
It's a different podcast.
Ariel.
This is a different
Yeah.
one.
Okay. Let's move on. In the women's strawweight division, we had some Yasmin on Yasmin violence.
Did.
Bro.
Somebody help me pronounce the first Yasmin's name. Jauregui?
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 I don't really remember. Yeah.
Jauregui.
Jauregui. Nice.
Jauregui.
Who took on Yazmin Lucindo and defeated her by unanimous decision. Mark, give me your take first on this Yasmin versus Yasmin matchup at women's strawweight.
This was a great scrap. Another one that was randomly placed on the card with two debuting women, but they delivered. I would be really interested to see both of these girls again, including Lucindo, despite the loss. They each had a lot of interesting qualities. Lucindo is a bit of a zombie. She just kind of walks through shots, throws with big power, which you don't see that often in women's MMA, like that style of fighter. So that was kind of cool to see. And then Jauregui just has some beautiful technique offensively while also being tough as hell in her own right. So that thing was a scrap. It's hard to tell the level of each of them with them having fought each other, like both being debutantes. So it's hard to gauge exactly how good they are. But Jauregui certainly looked impressive, and it'll be fun to see her in there again against someone who we know and see how she stacks up.
Omar, give us your reaction to this war.
I loved the shit out of this fight. I absolutely loved it. Jauregui has hands from the literal depths of hell. Her hands are so fast. Her combos are so disgustingly prepared. Lucindo reminds me of like, are they in the same weight class? They are in the same weight class. She reminds me of Amanda Lemos. It's exactly who she reminds me of. She fights almost the same way.
That's actually solid.
She almost looks like her to a certain extent, to be fair. The haircut, I think, is almost exactly the same. But they fight very, very similar to one another. Very power heavy, very reliant on their hooks and kind of like putting all of their weight on their bodies when they throw their shots to get that full power. Jauregui was not that. Jauregui was light on her feet. Her quarter turns were so goddamn perfect. Her strikes, again, were amazing. The fluidity of those combos. I mean, she wasn't throwing 1-2s. She was throwing 1-2, 2-3s, 3s, 4s. I mean, she was mixing up all kinds of nonsense. She threw head kicks in there. It was a brilliant, brilliant striking performance, I thought. And to be fair, both of these women were banging with each other. And it was a very back and forth fight. But I thought overall, through all three rounds, frankly, Jauregui had the more effective strikes, the sharper strikes. She was getting more strikes in against Lucindo. Lucindo's strikes were a lot more loopy, I would say, and Jauregui's were just a lot tighter, and they were getting in a lot more. I can't say enough things. I could honestly go on with it for this fight for like an hour, but Jauregui is fantastic. We definitely need to see her back again. I frankly would rather her already get tossed into somebody who's got a little bit of a name to her. I see so much potential in the way that she fights that we really need to see where she's at, because the talent in this division sometimes can be so far and few between when we get to that level, that when we see somebody with that kind of potential, I just need to know if it's legit or not. So can't wait.
Since both of these ladies debuted against each other, do you guys have any sense of what you'd want to see them do next in terms of matchups?
Yeah, I'll take a stab. So Jauregui, as good as she looked, as high as Omar obviously is on her, she is only 23. I believe that might have been her ninth fight. I would have to check that. Actually, I have it
Correct.
open. I was
Yeah.
just thinking, yeah, ninth fight. Um, so I don't want to go crazy. I get it. She looked really good. It's tempting. I'd like to at least throw her in there with someone who has UFC wins. So I'm sure Omar's going to be disappointed in my name. I'll say Sam Hughes. She's won 2 in a row. She has become a real scrapper. She can box. Obviously, she doesn't have hands per se, but she is a willing boxer. It has worked for her. She can obviously wrestle. She's a tough girl. I think just that type of a test, someone who we've seen can win in the octagon, is all we should be doing with Jauregui right now and making sure that she continues to impress. But I'm sure Omar's got a bigger name over there.
Yeah, Omar, take it.
It's really not a bigger name so much more as I feel like a name that people are a little bit more familiar with, and it would really be coming off of a loss that she just had. I think Lupi Godinez would be a good fight. I think it would allow Jauregui to sort of show off and play. I think she's significantly a better fighter, but I do think that Lupi is far enough in the rankings ahead of her at this point that it's worth getting into. But I do think it's a fight that Jauregui can win. I think it's a fight that Jauregui can get a highlight off of, and we can keep that train rolling.
Okay.
I like it. I'm concerned of would she get taken down for 15 minutes? Like we have no idea what her wrestling defense looks like.
For me though, that's like, and I think I get your point of you want to kind of slowly work your way up there. I need to know. I need to fucking know now. Like if Lupi can take her down, if Lupi can take her down to that extent, then we got to work on it. I'd rather her work on that kind of shit now. Like, and I've talked about it before, where I'd rather these girls and these guys get these losses in now, get them in early, so that when the real fights come, the fights that are the $200,000 fights, the pay-per-view fights, the fights for the belt, the fights for the number one contender, that's when you're not getting all of a sudden sunned on the ground because you've never been tested. Get that shit in now. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather her see it now and us see it now and see where she's at so we can properly, analyze where she goes from there. But as of right now, I have no reason to believe that she loses to Lupi Godinez.
Okay. That being said, let us now throw some remaining fights of this fight night card into our lightning round. All right, folks, if this is your first time joining us, our lightning round is where I challenge Mark and Omar to give me their quickest hot takes of these fights from UFC Fight Night. Vera versus Cruz. Let us begin. In the light heavyweight division, we're still on the main card. And Azamat Murzakanov, I'm butchering his name. Round 2. Thank you. Round 2 TKO over Devin Clark. Mark, go first.
Devin Clark is a guy who is going to struggle if he can't implement his wrestling. That's just the facts. And in this one, he could not. Murzakanov showed way better than he did in his debut. Much calmer, never rushed anything, picked his shots beautifully, mixed them up. And he shows you why he had the buzz that he came in with. He didn't quite live up in the debut, but we see it now. And he moves to 2-0 in the UFC.
Omar.
Yeah, I'd have to say Murzakanov definitely put on a much better performance this time around. The knockout was definitely solid. Kind of hard to say what you do with Devin Clark at this point. He it's not even that he loses. He doesn't look good in there while he's performing. So I'm not really sure where you go with Devin Clark from here, but a fantastic performance from Murzakanov.
Okay, Omar, staying with you in the women's bantamweight division, Priscilla Cachoeira defeated Ariane Lipski by TKO, making quick work of her in the very first round. The official time, 1 minute and 5 seconds. What's your take?
If you've ever seen a bowling ball get thrown down a lane and hit a bunch of bowling pins, that was basically this fight. Cachoeira ran that girl over, then backed up and ran over her again and beat the holy hell out of that girl. It was a crazy performance. Cachoeira, I think, really needed something that highlight reelish on her record to continue going forward. But hell of a TKO. Crazy, crazy finish.
Mark, go.
Priscilla just goes out there and friggin' plays Rock'em Sock'em Robots and sees who's going to fall down. It's wild. She does it every fight. And honestly, I think Lipsky, because Lipsky can exchange too. I think she thought that she was safe as that was happening because she didn't really seem like she was trying to get out of there. And then, like, next thing you know, it's all over. She stayed there too long, took too many, and that was it. Cachoeira has real power for that division. And as long as she comes out with aggression like that, like she has been recently, she's going to be dangerous.
Mark, sticking with you in the middleweight division, opening the main card of UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Cruz, GM3, Gerald Meerschaert defeats Bruno Silva by submission via guillotine choke. The official time came at 1 minute, 39 seconds of round number 3. Give us your lightning take.
This is the one I'm going to struggle to do, lightning. Let's see how this goes. Sometimes MMA makes zero sense, and this is one of those times. You have Gerald Meerschaert, a man who got badly outstruck by Krzysztof Jotko, who hung with, outstruck, and dropped Bruno Silva, a man who just had no problem exchanging with Alex Pereira for 15 minutes. I don't get it. I don't get, A, who that Gerald Meerschaert was. He was a much cleaner striker. He was significantly harder to hit than he usually is. And B, I don't get who that Bruno Silva was. He looked legitimately bad. Like, yes. He was winging wild shots. All his technique was missing. Like, it was as if he never knew how to strike. He didn't put anything together. There was no combos. I have no idea who that Bruno Silva was. It made no sense to me. But obviously a huge win for Gerald Meerschaert, a great finish, a nasty finish, and a big statement for him that he is still going to be relevant in this division, and certainly a bump in the road for the career of Bruno Silva.
Omar.
My take is a lot more of what the hell happened to Bruno Silva than, oh my God, Gerald Meerschaert. I hate the way that man strikes. The turning his back and running shit, like, it's got to stop. That all around in MMA, it's got to stop. People got to stop doing that. And I also am not really subscribed to the level of his striking. He was able to land more, and I don't think that was because of anything significantly different than he did. I think it's just because Bruno Silva just did not show up. And I think it just allowed a lot more of GM3 strikes to get through and land. To be fair, there were a good amount of body shots that got thrown, within the first 2 rounds, light and early, and really, I think could have set the pace right from there on the cardio that Bruno Silva had, because Bruno Silva was done by the end of that first round. Like, he was gassed.
I'm very curious if he had a horrible weight cut.
Something. Injury, maybe.
That was almost like Ray Cooper-esque. It wasn't close to that same scale of what Cooper did against Leao, but it was literally like 3 minutes into the fight, I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, I don't want to take away anything from GM3's win, but at the same time, I can't watch that fight and say you beat the best Bruno Silva I've ever seen, because that's not also the case. So the only thing I can really take away from this fight, and I know this is a lightning round, I'm sorry, Mike, is just that.
Oh shit, I forgot.
It's just that Bruno Silva didn't show up in that fight. Good on GM3. He took advantage of the situation. Good for him for getting the win, but Bruno Silva just didn't show up in that fight.
Okay.
We'll do better.
In the feature bout of the prelims on UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Cruz in the, it's supposed to be the women's strawweight division, but it was at a catch weight of 120 pounds because somebody didn't do their job.
No, I was late notice.
Oh, that's right. My bad. Angela Hill defeated Lupita Godinez by unanimous decision. My girl Angie Overkill Hill getting a decision every once in a while. All 3 judges gave her 29-28. Mark, go first.
Yeah, I actually wanted to rewatch this one before we did this podcast, and I forgot to do it just because I wanted to understand a little bit more. how that played out that way. Like we just watched, this is another one. We just watched Loopy wrestle the way she did in her last fight, where she looked like this like undeniable wrestler. And we watched Angela Hill get held down by Janjadova the whole fight of her last fight. And then Loopy comes out and like doesn't even wrestle. So like barely even tried it. So I wanted to rewatch for that reason, to be like, was there just like angles where she felt like she couldn't even get inside and she just said forget about it? Like I don't really get why there was such a small emphasis on wrestling from Loopy, especially when she was losing the striking. So I don't know, I was confused, but obviously I'm happy for Angela Hill. The girl won a decision, which is awesome, and she fought well. So yeah, I'm happy for her.
Omar.
All I have to say is thank God Angela Hill finally won a decision. That's all I've taken away from this fight. I don't even care. We'll move on to the next one. Let's go, Angela Hill.
Let's go. Okay, in the heavyweight division, we have Martin Buday defeats this guy's name he always reminds me of in my favorite movie of all time, Luca Brasi. How do you say this guy's name properly?
I don't remember.
Let's call him Luke. Let's call him Luke.
Lukasz.
Yeah, Lukasz Brzeski or something like that. Brzeski.
Yeah. No idea.
Either way, Buday won by split decision. Omar, go first.
Yeah, this was a decent fight. I definitely had Buday winning the 2 rounds.
Did you? Wow.
I did. It was a close fight though. I'm curious how you had the fight, because I had Buday winning. What was it? Round 1 and round 3, I believe.
I don't think it would have been 1. I think it was probably 2 and 3 that you had.
2 and 3.
I'm curious what the public has, but go ahead, finish your take.
That was pretty much it. I just thought Buday won that fight. It was a close fight. It wasn't necessarily the most, the most entertaining fight as far as like crazy things are concerned, but it was a solid fight. It's a good time.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't think the right guy won this fight. I haven't rewatched it, but on the first watch, I certainly thought that Brzeski, I don't know how to say the man's name. Certainly thought he won the first 2 rounds. That's a tough way to drop a debut, in my opinion, because I did think he won. And then I just pulled it up as Omar was talking about it. So all 3 judges gave him round 1, and then 2 of the judges gave Buday rounds. Sorry, let me try that again. Every judge gave Brzeski round 1. Every judge gave Buday round 3. It was round 2 that was the swing round, and 2 of them gave it to Buday. However, I will tell you that 90% of MMA decisions has the fight for Brzeski. So that's quite a bit. But anyway, yeah, Buday somehow gets it done. Not like it was a blowout. I just thought he was losing those first 2 rounds. But he gets it done, and he moves to 2-0 in the UFC.
As a quick tangent, imagine if scoring in MMA, instead of being done by 3 judges sitting at ringside, was just done online by fan vote. And you had hundreds of thousands of people voting and judging.
That would be wild.
Maybe that'd be the best way, because nobody would no fight would ever be wrong.
Honestly,
the majority of people.
The only
would you be able to influence it with gambling somehow?
Yeah, I know.
Bots.
I just
like
bots for sure.
It's not a bad idea, Mike, but if it wasn't for the fact that there are a bunch of trolls and a bunch of like bots out there,
that's what I mean. Yeah,
it just
the way to
it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I would love to get involved, though, man. That'd be great.
In the women's flyweight division, Nina Nunes defeats Cynthia Calvillo by split decision, earning a, what was it? It was a 30-27 and a 29-28, and Calvillo getting her own 29-28. Omar, take this one first.
Yeah, I don't know how they gave Calvillo the rounds that they gave her, I guess. I had Nina Nunes winning that fight pretty unanimously and pretty handily. It was a bit of a scrap. There were definitely times where they had some scrambles and stuff like that, but I thought Nina had control most of the time. I thought her striking was the more effective of the two. I don't think at any point I thought Nina Nunes was in any danger from anything that Cynthia was throwing. And I thought it went pretty much how we thought it was going to go in terms of control and Nina Nunes just being more effective than Cynthia Calvillo's. So I was a little surprised that they gave Calvillo at least one round. I thought she had all three.
Mark?
I did think Calvillo got the second, but the judge that scored her winning the fight was mind-blowing to me. But that fight, literally, if I had to close my eyes and create a movie of how I thought that fight was going to look, I think I might have got it 100% correct. Every movement of the entire fight. Like, it was literally exactly what I imagined happening. Cynthia had her moments at times. Nina wouldn't allow that many of them. She had more of them herself. She was the better striker. She steps away at the end, which isn't shocking, I guess. It was a solid career for her for sure. And on the other end, Cynthia Calvillo just continues to flounder.
Okay, in the lightweight division, Gabriel Benitez defeats Charles Ontiveros by TKO via punches in the very first round. The official time, 3 minutes and 35 seconds. Omar, let me throw this one over to you first again because I think you're going to be excited about this one.
Orale. That's right, baby. Gabriel Benitez with the knockout. Let's go. I don't know how long this man has now been at AKA, but let me fucking tell you guys.
I think that was the first one.
Gabriel Benitez all of a sudden is wrestling now. Your man done a pickup, a side slam into side control. Let's fucking go, Gabriel Benitez, with the gains. Yes, I'm all about it. Team Benitez. I don't give a shit if he wins or loses. Team Benitez all day. Let's go.
So I've been knocking Charlie Ontiveros to Omar, saying we can't get too excited because we might have had to give Benitez the walking papers if he couldn't beat Ontiveros. But I will say that Ontiveros actually came out in that fight looking friggin' dangerous. Like, that's the best I've seen him look. He had some wild strikes going on, but the problem with him is he's never been a fighter who can hold up to taking damage, and he couldn't here either. As soon as it started coming, it just kind of snowballed. Benitez drops him, takes Mount beautifully. Ontiveros starts covering up, and Benitez closes the show. So big win for him as he moves to lightweight here, and we'll see what he can do.
Okay. In the flyweight division, Tyson Nam defeats Ode Osborne by round 1 knockout. Mark, let me stay with you this time. Take it.
Dude, Tyson Nam is a wild fighter because when he loses, he doesn't look great. But when he has good nights, he looks like he could fucking knock anyone in the world out. And that's what he did in this one. Like, he's so slick. He's so fast. He carries so much power for 125, and he gets a monster finish here. That right hand off the flying knee was picture perfect, but it was the follow-up shot, that short uppercut to the jaw as Ode rolled, that was maybe even more impressive, just the accuracy and power that he landed such an awkward type of shot with. So, yeah, that guy, I mean, when he's on, he's scary.
Omar?
Yeah, I said on paper that Ode Osborne should win this fight. This goes to show you. So too. This goes to show you Tyson Nam doesn't give a shit about what you have on your paper. That whatever they stood in front of him, chances are he's going to punch it right in the face. The way he was able to time that knee, too, it's really not something you can teach. That's just something that comes from experience and reps and just doing and doing and doing. The man being able to pick that read up in that moment that quickly and adjust his movements and his striking to know that he was about to land this shot. I mean, it's beautiful. It was amazing. I loved every minute of it. I can't wait to see Tyson Nam back. I'm glad he's back.
Okay, at a catch weight of 180 pounds, Josh Quinlan defeated Jason Witt by knockout in the very first round at 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Omar, take it.
My heavenly father. I don't know if Jason Witt has woken up yet, but if he hasn't, I wouldn't be surprised, man. Quinlan put that boy out. It is, and I've said it here before. We gotta stop throwing naked leg kicks. we gotta stop. They've got to be set up first. You've got to throw a jab. You've got to throw something, fake something first, at least. Quinlan or Witt tried to do a little hand shimmy before he threw that leg kick. As you can see, Quinlan didn't give a shit because he didn't actually think anything was coming. You got to set those things up first because the naked leg kicks are just going to leave your chin exposed every time. This happens at the highest level when it really shouldn't. Stop it. Stop throwing naked leg kicks. I'm done.
Okay.
That was a murder. Josh Quinlan killed Jason Witt. The commentary was right. He was very jittery early. I think getting taken down actually kind of helped him settle into the fight and calm himself down. And then when he gets up, the finish comes shortly after. It actually looked like he was going to throw a counter right that he kind of started with and then held it and switched and threw the left. I was watching it a bunch of times because I was like, is that really what just happened? But it looked like it, which is impressive to make that kind of switch in real time, to see how open the left was and switch to that. But if that's what happened, that was friggin' nasty. I would love to ask him. And then he also holds up on the ground and pound follow-up shot pretty incredibly. So that guy's got some control of his freaking body, man. But that's a great debut.
Absolutely. All right, last one, boys. Opening the night for UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Cruz in the bantamweight division. We opened the night with a draw, a majority draw, which was 29-28, and then two other judges were 28-28 between Damon Blacks here and Yosef Zalal. Mark, give us your take.
This was a quality fight. Damon Blackshear was managing to eke out the rounds early. Zalal, who I do think is the better fighter overall, found a way to show that late, and he really poured it on late. If he had another round, I certainly think that he would have clearly won that fight. He came close to getting Blackshear out of there, but unfortunately had to settle for the draw. I do think it was the right score. But again, pride scoring would have solved this because we could have just said Zalal won that fight. Carry on.
Omar?
I agree. I had the first two rounds for Blackshear, and by the time the third round came, Zalal, I don't know. I don't know what they gave him in the corner between 2 and 3, but by the time 3 came out, he all of a sudden knew what to do, knew how he needed to win the fight, got him down to the ground against the cage, and started working him, and got a 10-8 round out of it. But the draw I thought was warranted. They both look a little shocked when the draw came out, but I thought it was the right call.
Yeah, which is funny to see in a fight that seems to be clearly a draw.
Neither one of those guys were really. It wasn't clear that they were both winning, right? Blackshear, like Mark said, had it early, but by the time you got into the third round, the face on Blackshear didn't look like he was winning. He was drowning in that fight, but in that third round. So I think if we had another 2 rounds, it probably wouldn't have ended in a draw, but we didn't. So it did.
He was a late replacement, I'm pretty sure, too. So maybe cardio wouldn't have been an issue if that hadn't been the case, but who knows?
Yeah.
All right, well, boys, that does it for this week's lightning round. And now, Mark, why don't you put a bow on this UFC Fight Night Vera versus Cruz by informing our listeners and viewers on the updates to your very own rankings system that we call, affectionately, the Priaulx Rankings. Take it away, bud.
I would be happy to. We got 3 risers this week, 1 faller. We'll work down the card, starting with the risers. Azamat Murzakanov, we touched on him. He goes from number 34 to number 20 in my light heavyweight rankings. He's now looking like he may start to live up to that hype that he came in with. Makes a nice move up the ranks here. Devin Clark he kind of fills that gatekeeper role of are you going to start to get near these rankings or not? So Murzakanov makes a nice move. He's number 20 now. Next one, not a huge move, but I'm touching on it because he is cracking my top 15, which is Tyson Nam. He was my number 18 flyweight. He's now my number 15. Statement KO, gets himself just into my rankings, if you will. So yeah, big return for Tyson Nam. And then the last riser is Josh Quinlan, who we just mentioned. Obviously, debuting fighter, not ranked. He makes a big move right away. He's debuting as my number 48 welterweight by virtue of beating Jason Witt, who, don't forget, is a man who not that long ago beat Brian Barberena. So that's a solid debut for Josh Quinlan. The faller, I'm sure you can guess it, Bruno Silva. He goes from number 22 to number 31 in my middleweight ranking. So pretty big tumble. Guy had a great pre-UFC track record. He looked good so far. I thought he was really going to be like entering the rankings here, and instead he goes the complete opposite direction and drops a fight to Mearshart where he did not look good. So he falls down to number 31 in my middleweight rankings, and we will see if he can rebound. And that concludes the Priaulx rankings for this week.
Very nice. Thank you, sir. All right, moving right along with this show, we are done with UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Cruz. And now let us go back to Mark for a quick Bellator and PFL quick recap.
Absolutely. All right, we'll do Bellator first. I'll just tell you the notable results. There were a few. Deanna Bennett beat Justine Kish again in much the same fashion. She handled her with relative ease, pretty clear victory. She's now done it in back-to-back fights, so she's technically right there toward the top of this division for a title shot. Only problem is she already lost to Carmouche a few fights back, so we will see what they decide there. Next one up that's worth mentioning, and it certainly is Aaron Jeffrey knocking out Austin Vanderford in about 2 minutes. Might have been less than 2 minutes. That one was a statement. Aaron Jeffrey may be a name to watch. He's a big middleweight. He carries power. He put Vanderford down with ease, and he is a 13-3 fighter whose 3 losses are to Caio Bahallo, Brendan Allen, and Sean Brady. So those are some quality names to be your 3 losses. So he might be a name to watch in Bellator. We'll see what he does from here. The co-main, major buzzkill, nothing to report. Valentin Moldavsky poked Steve Mowry in the eye pretty much immediately. Steve Mowry could not continue. No contest there. We'll see if they run that one back. That sucked. And then in the main event, Goichi Yamauchi knocks out Neiman Gracie, in round 2. I mentioned last week that the speed of Goichi, the striking speed, hand speed, may be a real problem for Neiman, and it sure was. He played Neiman right in, let Neiman step in, real quick uppercut, connects, Neiman goes down, and Goichi immediately inserts himself into the welterweight ranks here as he makes his move up to 170 pounds. So that was a very impressive win for him. He put Neiman down in a way that I'm not sure anyone else has. I'm trying to think of his other losses. I don't think he's got put down like that. Yeah. So that was a big one. All right, should I flip over to PFL?
Yeah, do it.
All right, PFL results recap. 4 fights here also, same as Bellator there. We will do the heavyweight semifinals first. Matus Scheffel, maybe a man of destiny. He defeats Juan Adams here. First, he fought Bruno Capolosa in the regular season, who had already qualified for the tournament and kind of took it easy and manages to beat Capolosa in that fight. But it didn't matter because he wasn't making the playoffs anyway. Capolosa was going into the playoffs. It is what it is. Then Capolosa has to pull out of the tournament. So Scheffel, since he beat him, gets put into it. Then his opponent, Denis Goltsov, who was a 3.5-1 favorite, has to pull out. And he gets paired with Juan Adams, who's not even good. And now he wins that fight. And now he's fighting for $1 million. So the guy has had some ridiculous luck. I mean, it's pretty unreal. But he is now in the finals for the heavyweight division of the PFL. Problem for him, though, is that he is going to be fighting Ante Dalia, who knocked out Renan Ferreira in round 1, and who's very good. He took down Ferreira early. He just more or less worked him on the ground, big pressure, constant shots, and eventually it was enough, and he will certainly be the favorite to win $1 million. He's been very solid in the PFL. And again, he's the likely winner here, but maybe the Scheffel Cinderella story continues. So we will see when we have the heavyweight final. On the other not on the other side. In the other weight, we had the semifinals at welterweight. First one, we were going to see how real Carlos Leal was after that odd victory against Ray Cooper that we've actually touched on again on this podcast, where he just worked Ray Cooper. Ray Cooper looked awful, and Carlos Leal could not continue and deliver on that hype. He drops a unanimous decision to Sadibou C. Round one was all C behind what was an 8-inch reach advantage for him. He pieced Leal up with the jab. Leal was able to adjust. He brought the pressure in round two, forced the clinch, even the fight up. Then round three, he lands a low blow. C takes a while to recover. And Copeland, what's Copeland's first name? Gary? Is that his name? The ref? I think it's Gary Copeland. Takes
Sounds
a
about
point
right.
despite no warning, no prior offense in the fight, nothing. Just immediately took a point from Leal, which was mind-blowing to me. Leal came out pissed. C did win the round anyway, but it may have been because Leal came out pissed. He like really turned up the aggression so much. C was kind of able to just use that and pick him apart. Ends up taking the round in the fight, but that point take was wild to me. I would have loved to see that round three play out otherwise. But Sadibou C moves into the welterweight final, where you thought maybe we were going to get a rematch of him and Rory, and instead things go the other way. Delano Taylor, late replacement, steps in against Rory MacDonald and finishes him in round one. He will now get to fight for $1 million. At least he did it by knocking out Rory MacDonald. So you could say he earned it a little more than Sheffield did. What version of Rory may be a different story, but Taylor came in. He did exactly what he had to do, and he finished it fast with a beautiful TKO. And then to put the bow on the PFL, I believe it was the next day, we saw the man Rory MacDonald announce his retirement from the sport. Maybe a little surprising. He wasn't giving off vibes that he was about to be done, but it does make sense, obviously, with the way he has been looking lately. So I just wanted to bring that up and give us a chance to speak on it here. I have some things I want to say, but maybe you guys can start it off since I've been speaking for a while.
I'll basically just start by saying Rory MacDonald. I've probably been watching MMA as long as I've been watching Rory MacDonald at this point. He's been around in the sport for so long. He was essentially a kid when he first started, when we first saw him kind of reach the big time. I would say the two fights off the top of my head that probably replay in my head like if I was watching a movie are Robbie Lawler versus Rory MacDonald.
Rory.
Or already forgot his name.
Their second fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean that's by far one of the most legendary fights that have ever happened. The stare down in between, I don't even remember what rounds they were, but that stare down when they're just covered in their own blood is got to be one of the most insane moments in MMA history. And then Rory piecing up BJ Penn like if BJ Penn was a noob. That was one of the most extraordinary things I'd ever seen in my life. Both of those performances, for me, will go down in my head forever, and they'll continue to replay themselves in my head. Yep. Had some great memories with him, just being in the sport, being a part of Tough at one point, even helping coach with GSP at one point. There's just so many memories with Rory MacDonald kind of having been around for so long, being at the top of the crypto game and all this other stuff that he had kind of brought into the MMA world. So, he'll definitely be missed. I would be sad if he doesn't show his face in the MMA world from going forward, to some extent, but never seeing him fight again is going to be rough.
Yeah, man. This is a guy who has wins over BJ Penn, Jake Ellenberger, Damian Maia, Tyron Woodley, Paul Daly, Douglas Lima. The guy's been, in and around the sport. He's fought a who's who. He's beaten a who's who. He will be missed. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Rory had a fantastic career. Like, yes, it ended with a little bit of a whimper once he left the UFC, and especially once he left Bellator. But like you said, in his prime, in the UFC specifically, he etched himself into our memories forever. Like he is a guy who regularly went to war, which is wild because his style changed so much late in his career.
Yeah.
But in his UFC days, he went to war every fight. His fight with Carlos Condit stands out specifically as a crazy one. And then, as Omar said, that second fight with Robbie Lawler is one of the greatest fights that anyone has ever seen. And some of the most iconic images that we've ever seen. The one that Omar mentioned, as round 4 ends, Robbie and Rory have both just finished killing each other for another 5 minutes. Both of them are legitimately covered in blood. The horn sounds, and neither man will move. Neither man will go back to his corner. They even walk closer to each other, and the ref has to step in between. Just a stared, Herb,
it was Herb,
a stare down from hell, covered in blood, saying, "You're gonna have to kill me to get me out of here." And as we know, a few minutes later, Robbie Lawler obliged and did kill him. But that fight will go down in history forever, and Rory will too. And unless I'm forgetting someone, he's got to be the number 2 in Canadian MMA history, behind only George St. Pierre. So that's a nice legacy as well.
Yeah, man,
for sure. Yeah, I think this
not just that stare down, but also the that 8x10 zoom in of his face.
Oh yeah,
going into the 5th round where he looks like a living zombie.
Yeah, a lot of great images.
Which, by the way, I think on Helwani, Rory confirmed that night, that fight was the greatest moment of his life, and I think he said it with sincerity, man.
Yeah,
it was amazing. You guys should find that interview with Helwani where he articulates himself as to why he regards that moment as the greatest moment of his life.
He almost said it in a way of like, well, of course it was. Like, why wouldn't it be the greatest moment of my life?
Not his wedding, not the birth of his children.
He didn't even win the fight.
I know. He got TKO'd in the 5th round with a shattered nose.
Yeah. Oh,
what a fighter, what a warrior, what a martial artist.
Yes.
His presence will be missed. Anything else you guys want to say about Rory Mack, the Red Gorilla?
Red King.
Red King. That's right, the gorilla.
Yeah. Loved that name, the Red King.
Yeah.
I think peak Rory should be called BC Rory. And then the Rory.
What was his name before Red King? Do you remember?
Romac Gorilla, right?
The Canadian. It was the Canadian Psycho.
Too.
The Canadian Psycho.
That was it. Canadian Psycho. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, cool.
He did not like that one. Before Christ.
He meant like BCAD, like 2 different versions of Rory.
Once Rory met his wife, who at the time they were boyfriend girlfriend.
Bro, that actually works so good because it's when he found Christ.
Jesus, that's why I said BC. Yes.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yes. So that was his whole thing, is he got really into religion, and it fucked with his game. He said it multiple times that it messed with his game. He didn't really want to be so violent and hurt people and stuff like that. That's AD Rory right there, man. But BC Rory was a motherfucker.
That's so well said. Wow. Oh, man.
You're kind of right about that.
Love that.
Should we move on? Let's move on. In the interest of time.
You will be missed, Rory.
Let's go right into inside the MMA Sphere with Omar Artola. Omar, let us know what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cages and in the headlines. What's up?
I'm going to sprint to get water.
Do it. Let's start with just a little bit of news. Unfortunately, the news is not fantastic. I actually meant to talk about this last week, and I forgot to bring it up. 33-year-old Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion Leandro Lo was shot and killed in Brazil by an off-duty police officer. Officer's name was Enrique Octavio Oliveira Veloso. Yeah. Reportedly, he shot the jiu-jitsu champ. So they were in a bar, and there was some sort of altercation at a concert. At a concert being given by a group called Grupo Pijote, one of Brazil's most famous samba pop groups. They got into some kind of altercation. Leandro tried to de-escalate the situation. The guy pulled out a gun and shot Leandro in the face. And that was that. So the officer did turn himself in. There's huge public outroar in Brazil right now as a result of the murder. And so they'll, I'm not entirely sure exactly what's happening with that police officer. I don't know how things go in Brazil. I don't know how wild that situation is over there, but really unfortunate for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world, for the fight community in general, definitely for the friends and family of Leandro Lo. A lot of outpouring from people in the MMA community once he passed, so definitely wanted to make sure we brought him up here. Next on the list, the man Shane Burgos. Nate Landwehr had one other name besides.
Oh yeah.
Someone help me. We were just talking about it.
Besides Billy Q.
Thank you. Besides Billy Q, and that was Shane Burgos. Unfortunately, Nate Landwehr was unaware that Shane Burgos has officially moved to PFL, has become the new family member of the PFL fighting league. That's redundant. That doesn't make any sense. PFL. Shane Burgos ideally will be fighting for $1 million. I also believe that Shane Burgos will have access to some new sponsorships that he did not have before being in contract with the UFC as well. So that'll open him up to some new opportunities. Basically, he walked away from the interview that he kind of announced this on the MMA Hour, saying that he's going to be a multimillionaire. And I could not be happier for the kid. It sounds like Dana White is not thrilled about it, in the sense that he's basically saying he fucked up. The UFC fucked up. They should have kept Shane Burgos. I'm assuming he means that they should have matched whatever it was that PFL offered him. They did not. They let him go, and Dana White is not thrilled about it. So that's what happens. Shane Burgos does not seem sad about the situation. He's been gracious towards the UFC and thanked them for the platform and the opportunity. But Shane Burgos got kids to feed. He's got a family to feed. PFL is what's going to bring in the bread. That's where he went. So be excited to see how Shane Burgos does in the PFL. I think we've all loved Shane Burgos over these many years that he's been in the UFC. The performances that he's given have been top tier, win or lose. So I know I'm hopeful that he does really well in the PFL and definitely succeeds at least one of the seasons that he participates in. So hopefully that goes well for him. Last on the list of news here, the boy BJ Penn back in the news. Now, if you weren't aware, BJ Penn had run for Hawaii governor recently, and he lost quite badly. He garnered less than 25% of the vote in Hawaii during the primaries, and so I would not be...
It's not terrible.
It's not great. It's not great.
Yeah, but it's
not
like,
a big island.
Most non-majority parties in America, all non-majority parties in America get like 1%.
Yeah, but it's an
well,
island.
He ran with a party, did he not?
Oh, he did run with the party.
With Republicans. He ran with the Republicans.
Yeah, he ran as a Republican. Yeah.
Oh, then he kind of got shellacked. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a tiny island too. 25% of 30 people.
But this was the primary. This was just this was Republicans against Republicans. It wasn't. Yeah.
Okay. He did not garner support.
Yeah. No. So nobody should be holding their breath to see BJ Penn in office. It's not going to happen. Let us get some fight announcements on the table, and we will get to this week's pay-per-view card. Christos Giagos is out against his fight with Benoit Saint-Denis in Paris. He will now be facing Gabriel Miranda on September 3rd. Charles Jourdain versus Nathaniel Wood has been added to UFC Paris on September 3rd as well. Lando Venata is out against his fight with Andre Fili, which had me super sad. Andre Fili, however, will be fighting Bill Algeo instead, which is not a bad consolation. I will take that.
Nope.
It's a good fight.
Yep, it is.
That fight will be going down September 17th. Raoni Barcelos versus Trevin Jones has been added to UFC's October 1st event. Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland is currently in the works for October 15th as the main event of that UFC Fight Night card. Added to that card, Misha Serkinov versus Alonzo Menefield has also been added. Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Parker Porter has been added to UFC's 280 card on October 22nd. I know you enjoyed his performance, Mark, so I wanted to make sure you knew what he was up next.
Yep.
Armin Petrosian versus AJ Dobson has also been added to the UFC's 280 card. And for UFC's 281 card, Lena Landsberg versus Carol Rosa has been added. Trayshawn Gore versus Josh Fremd has been added to UFC's October 29th Fight Night card. Max Griffin versus Tim Means has also been added to that card as well. Mike Trezano versus Sungwoo Choi has been added to UFC's 281 card. Molly McCann versus Aaron Blanchfield has also been added to UFC's 281 card in Madison Square Garden. Dominick Reyes versus Ryan Spann also added to that card, along with Stephen Thompson versus Kevin Holland. That 281 card is shaping up to be some shit right there. That is a beauty. Moving right along, Eric Anders versus Kyle Dawkins has been added to UFC's December 3rd card, along with Jack Hermanson versus Derek Brunson. And last but not least, on UFC's 282 card on December 10th, their December pay-per-view, Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Robbie Lawler is in the works, which is guaranteed to be pure violence. That's all I got for you boys this week.
Well, all right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, gentlemen. Well, it is time now to look ahead to the future. And by future, I mean the very near future, meaning this coming weekend. We have PFL and UFC action. Let us discuss PFL first. August 20th, 2022, PFL 9 of this year's PFL season. This is a part of the PFL playoffs. Let's discuss some fights for PFL 9. Obviously, the main event is going to be Kayla Harrison taking on another women's lightweight, contender. But let's start in the featherweight division of PFL with Ryoji Kudo taking on Bubba Jenkins. Mark, what do you have to say?
Yeah, so I will run through these four as we have been doing. These are the final four semifinals of PFL this season. Obviously, from here on out, it will just be the finals for the $1 million. So this is the last two weight classes. It is men's featherweight and women's lightweight. And as Mike said, well, I'll start it with featherweight because, again, it is the less of the marquee, with Kayla obviously being in the main event on this one. So the first semifinal is Ryoji Kudo, against Bubba Jenkins. Kudo is plus 275 here. Jenkins is minus 350. He's a fairly significant favorite. Kudo is the only fighter who made it to these semis that was 1-1 this season. All other three featherweights were 2-0. But he had a big round KO, and PF works off that point system. So by virtue of that, he is in here. But I think Bubba Jenkins is a real tough test. He has looked great in the PFL thus far. I think he will likely ride his wrestling to a victory here, but you never know. We will see. The other side is two more names that people will recognize, which is Chris Wade and Brendan Loughnane. Wade is the favorite. He's minus 250. Brendan is plus 200 on the other end. These two guys have really similar paths. They've both been in the UFC. They've had their highs and lows. They've had some big performances. They've always, in like the world lightweight rankings, they've always hung around. They've both been near the top of this featherweight division in PFL for a couple years now. So it's honestly surprising that they haven't crossed paths yet in any of the regular season matchups or anything. So this should be a good one. This will be a scrap. It's possible that Wade's wrestling is just too high level for Loughnane, but he scraps. So and he can fight anywhere. So we'll see. We'll see how this one plays out. It should be interesting. We may end up with a Wade Jenkins final of two wrestlers going at it. And then flipping over to the women, it's two, possible murders. The first one is Larissa Pacheco against Olena Kolesnik. Pacheco is minus 675. Kolesnik is plus 450 as the dog. Larissa Pacheco, I was talking her up on here last time we talked about her. Obviously these girls fight at lightweight in the PFL. Really, Kayla and her can both make 145 if need be. So I lumped them in as 145ers. I think she's probably the fourth best 145er in the world right now. You got Amanda Cyborg and Kayla obviously as those top dogs, but Pacheco is good, and she's had two shots at Kayla. She lost them both, of course, but she has been on a mission to get that third crack at Kayla Harrison, and she has been walking through girls. She has 4 straight first-round knockouts right now, and I think we may see another one here, or at least a knockout at some point in time. I do expect her to get that third shot at Kayla. And then in the main event, you have the minus 4,000 favorite, Kayla Harrison, minus 4,000 against Martina Jindrova, who is plus 1,400. Kayla's got to live up to the hype against a lesser opponent one more time here. She does it one more time. I'm sure she will. And then she'll get what is a very big fight in the final against Pacheco, a chance to beat her for a third time and put that to bed, a chance to put $1 million in her pocket, and a chance to potentially really walk into a matchup with Chris Cyborg. So she's got to make sure she gets this one done. I'm sure she will. It may even be quick, but we will see what she can show us in the main event here.
Really,
Nice.
really quick, because there might be some people on here who listen who may be wondering, geez, what does minus 4,000 mean? That sounds crazy. Let me fucking explain it to you really quick. Minus
Drake could
4,000.
afford to do that bet. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, dude. This is a bet that only rich people would even attempt to do, because it would mean nothing to them if they won, because it would be free money at that point, and it would mean nothing to them if they lost because they're rich. Minus 4,000 basically means if you'd like to win $100 on this bet, you need to put down $4,000 for every $100 you want to win.
Yes.
What the hell?
Insanity.
On the other side of things, if you're feeling
Put
lucky,
down what, $400 to win $1, right?
To win 10,
yes.
right?
Okay.
To win 10. No? Yes.
Yes, 10.
Yes.
$400 for $10. Yes.
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 Yeah.
We got you, Brian. Battle. I got that math for you, don't you worry.
I think
But yeah, that's a serious line that they have there. And so on the other side, if you are feeling lucky, you can spend $100, and if the underdog wins, you'll get that $1,500 back.
Whew.
Good luck with that. Minus 4,000. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
that's crazy.
Yep.
Ronda used to
Steepest
get
odds
those
that I
kind of
think I've ever
lines
seen.
like on the regular. Like she would be a minus 2,000 on the
Yeah.
regular.
Yes, she would.
But minus 4 that's a lot. That's
That's
a lot.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. Okay. Let's now look ahead to this weekend's pay-per-view UFC 278, Usman versus Edwards 2, going down at the Vivint Arena in Salt Lake City, Utah. UFC 278. Did I say that all right? Vivint?
No. You did. Real quick, before we get into UFC 278, I just want to point out that there's also BKFC going down this weekend as well. So if you do watch bare knuckle fighting, Michael Venom Page and
Oh, that's this weekend?
Michael Venom Page and Mike Perry,
All right.
Mike Platinum Perry are fighting this weekend. Paige Van Zandt was also supposed to be fighting against somebody, and she got pulled from the event. They're saying that she pulled out. She's been all over the internet going, "I don't pull out. Tag your friends who also don't pull out." So I don't know exactly what's happening there. What I do know is Michael Venom Page, Mike Perry will absolutely be fighting. Definitely check that out. It is at 2 p.m. The main card starts because it is happening in London. So time yourselves accordingly.
In one sentence, give me your prediction / pick of MVP versus Platinum Mike Perry. Omar, do it. One sentence. One phrase. What is it? What's the pick?
This is not kickboxing. This is bare knuckle boxing. I would be surprised how effective Michael Page can be in there against somebody who is literally a street fighter. So in the cage, I would pick Michael Venom Page against Mike Perry any day of the week. With just bare knuckles, I'm inclined to go to Perry for some crazy ass reason.
While I get that, it's an 8-inch reach advantage, which feels like a lot.
Yeah.
And it's,
but how would Michael Venom Page
normally?
How would he normally deal with that range? He would kick people in the face.
Yeah.
Can't kick people now.
Yeah.
Perry will walk through his punches.
I still can't believe this is happening.
Me either.
Yeah,
dude.
me too.
I should mention.
Bellator was like, yeah, super marketable guy. Just go ahead and get punched in the face with bare knuckles and maybe lose, which lowers your value, and maybe also get your face destroyed so you can't fight for a while. Sounds good.
Yeah, there's also two Muay Thai legends.
One phrase.
There's two Muay Thai legends that have signed to BKFC as well. Bukaw and Sanchai. Whenever those guys get fights in the BKFC, I will make sure to let you guys know because Bukaw?
Isn't it Bukaw or that guy? That guy you're talking about? Like the super legend guy?
Yeah.
Bukaw.
Both of those guys are basically the same age and they look completely different. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, Bukaw and Sanchai are both legends in the Muay Thai world. They're fighting for BKFC for some reason. I don't know when, but we will definitely let you know. But just wanted to make sure you guys have
give us the pick.
Yeah, I said MVP. It's hard for me to pick against the reach.
I'm gonna go MVP
as much as I get
it. 2. My bad.
What did you say? Oh, you wanted like a true pick. Fuck.
Yeah,
how many rounds is BKFC? I don't watch BKFC.
I don't know. Let's say it's. Is it more like
I think
boxing?
It's 3 rounds.
Like 6, 8 rounds.
No.
I'll say it's a knockout.
I'll say
round 3.
It's 5 2-minute rounds.
5 2-minute rounds. Oh damn. I'm gonna go MVP knockout. What did I say? Round 2? Let's stick with it. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about MMA. This is not and new bare knuckle show. This is and new MMA show. Okay, 278. Before we hop into a handful of what we would consider the biggest fights of this pay-per-view, any other fights or fighters that you guys want to highlight for our viewers and listeners?
I'll throw out a couple real quick. Francisco Figueiredo is on this card. He's always interesting to watch just on his come up. Obviously, his big brother is former flyweight champion Davidson Figueiredo, or current flyweight champion. Current flyweight champion Davidson Figueiredo. Moreno fans may feel differently about that statement, which is why I may have slipped up there. You know what I'm saying? But indeed, the current flyweight champion. Also, AJ Fletcher and Anglosa are fighting together on this card. That's actually going to be a really decent fight. I'm pretty high on AJ Fletcher. I'm expecting good things from him going forward. And then last one I'll throw out there real quick is the Sean Woodson versus Luis Saldana fight. Two guys who I don't have very much star power, but the reality is they fight with a lot of aggression. And I'm pretty excited to see how that fight goes down.
Mark, any other names you want to throw out there?
Yeah, Woodson has looked solid. I like that fight too. It's weird. It's a pay-per-view card, and there's like 4 high-level fights. It's kind of a random thrown together card. There's some solid names, but there's like a lot of mismatches, like Tyson Pedro. We love Tyson Pedro. He's fighting Harry Hunsucker, who's a guy who was 0-2 at heavyweight. Now he's coming down to light heavyweight. I mean, Tyson Pedro's like 8-1. He's minus 800. You have Miranda Maverick for some reason fighting Shayna Young, who hasn't even looked good and who she's already beat in her career. Maverick is like minus 550. So not the greatest matchmaking in the world. I do like the Jared Gordon versus Leo Santos fight. A couple years ago, I would have picked Santos pretty quickly because I've never been a Jared Gordon guy. But Leo Santos looks like age might have finally caught up. He has not looked good in the last few fights, but you never know. We'll see how that one goes. I like that fight, and I think it is. Oh no, Gordon's pretty big favorite, almost 3-1. Yeah, there's not a lot of tight fights on the early part of this card. But yeah, that's it for me. We can hop up.
Okay, that being said, let's hop in the featured bout of the prelims on ESPN and ESPN Plus. In the heavyweight division, we have Marcin Tybura taking on Alexandr King Kong Romanov.
They took this off the main card?
According to my sources, this is the final bout on the prelims.
Wow, it was on the main card yesterday. Gee, this is getting so now you're paying for a pay-per-view to watch 3 fucking relevant fights? Who makes these decisions?
That's correct. There is Kamaru, Costa, Aldo, Wu Yanan, and Tyson Pedro for the main card.
I'm sorry. They took it off the pay-per-view so they could put on Lucy Pudilova versus Wu Yanan. That's the one it got swapped with.
That's correct.
Like, what is happening here?
Maybe it has something to do with their ESPN contract?
Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
Continue. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Mark is
so
2
Tybura.
words away from tweeting Sean Shelby some real shit. Like,
oh man.
Okay.
I mean, it's Usman and Edwards. We couldn't get some fights on the card that matter. Christ.
Okay, we have Tybura, 36-year-old Pole, 6'3", 22-7, 9 knockouts and 6 submissions. Pretty decent finish rate. Of course, coming off of the decision loss against Alexander Volkov back in October of last year. Volkov snapped a 5-fight win streak for Tybura. Okay, taking on Romanov, King Kong, Alexander Romanov from Moldova. He's coming in tonight, coming off wins against Jared Vandera and Chase Sherman. Romanov, importantly, is undefeated at heavyweight. He is 16-0 as a pro. Mark, give us your assessment and ultimately your pick.
So this one's even wider than I thought it would be on the betting odds. Romanov is minus 400. Tybura is plus 300. I have always been high on Romanov. I'm glad we're here now where he's like, fighting a ranked fighter ready to break in. Tybura has shown us how good he can be, though. He can wrestle. He can clinch. He's strong in the clinch. He's a capable striker. He, as you said, he won 5 in a row prior to that Volkov loss, and one of those 5 was beating Sergey Spivak, who feels kind of relevant to Alexander Romanov. They're not terribly different fighters. So Tybura has shown that he can do it. With that said, I'm not going to pick him. As I said, I do like Romanov. I don't think he can deny Romanov's wrestling. I think that there's a chance he even gets so concerned with the wrestling that as the fight goes on, he starts to get caught on the feet as well. I think that Romanov just presents too many problems. I think he's very much the real deal. As you said, he's 16-0. I think we're going to 17, and I'll say he finds a finish. I'll say late round 2 TKO.
Like it. Okay, Omar.
Yeah, I also think that that Romanov is going to end up coming up on top here. I think it's going to be one of the more dominating performances, I think, of the night. I also I have a bit more of a aggressive take than Mark. Mark is going with the TKO, what we know Marcin Tybura might be susceptible to. I think Romanov is so goddamn good that he will give Tybura his first submission loss. And I think this will happen in the second round. Let's go.
I kind of like that pick, and I'm thinking Romanov by submission as well. He's the more seasoned submission artist with 9 of his 16 victories coming by way of sub. I'm going to say he's going to get Tybura out of there by sub. I'll say in the third round.
Dude, one of the big reasons, too, for Romanov specifically is the way his submissions come, they're not opportunistic. He makes them happen. He puts himself in positions to get those submissions. A lot of people get submissions because they're not given to them, but they present themselves. Romanov makes those opportunities happen. I think he's going to do it. I really do.
Okay, next up we have a fantastic high-level bantamweight bout. 135-pound version of Jose Aldo taking on Merab Dvalishvili. Jose Aldo, the king of Rio, really needing no introduction. From Brazil, he's a legend at the featherweight division, and he took his talents down to 135 pounds in an attempt to rejuvenate his career. He's 5'7". He's my age. He's 35 years old. He's born about a month before me. 31-7 as a pro. This man still has not reached double-digit losses. Unbelievable. 17 wins by knockout. Only 1 win by submission, by the way. And rejuvenation he has achieved to this date with 3 consecutive victories coming into Saturday night against Marlon Chito Vera, Pedro Munoz, and Rob Font. Okay, that's Jose. Merab, from Georgia originally, now lives in New York. 31-year-old younger man, 14-4 as a pro. He's a decision machine, this guy. 10 of his 14 wins by decision, 3 knockouts, 1 sub. He's 5'6", and he is a Ray Longo guy out on Long Island, okay? He's coming off of wins against John Dodson, Cody Stamen, and Marlon Moraes. Okay, Omar, why don't you break this one down first? Give us your assessment, your ideas, and then your pick.
This is a real tough fight to pick, man. On one side, you've got Jose Aldo, who is an absolute legend and an absolute killer. As far as the things that the challenges that he presents, the power is going to be a real thing. Merab has never been finished before as far as strikes are concerned. However, if there's one guy that he's going to go through that's going to present that as a legitimate risk, it's going to be Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo is definitely inclined to sleep somebody if given the opportunity. I think Merab relies heavily on his wrestling, his ability to take people down, control them, pushing the pace more than anything, but eventually getting them to the point where they're drowning. Jose Aldo has shown susceptibility to the cardio game towards the end of the fight. Usually when that happens, it's usually rounds 4 and rounds 5. There is no round 4, round 5 here. This is 3 rounds. Jose Aldo is probably one of the hardest men, not only to take down, but absolutely to keep down. The man's hips are like they have rockets on them. As soon as they touch the floor, whop, they go right back up. Like it's ridiculous to watch him stuff a takedown or stop himself from getting put all the way on the mat because he's relentless with it. And I think if he's able to stop Merab from controlling him on the ground, I think it presents a lot of issues for Merab going forward and throughout the majority of that fight. If Merab is able to take him down and control him, I think that's where the majority of the fight will take place. And I don't think he'll give Jose Aldo a chance to really do anything in that fight if he can prevent it. So the question, I guess, then is really, what do I think is more likely to happen? As good as Merab is, and as much as I love watching Merab fight, I don't think I'm there yet to say that he's going to take take over Jose Aldo's game and nullify him and take him down and keep him down. I do think Jose Aldo is going to win. I think Merab is going to try so hard taking him down that I think by the third round we might see Merab more gassed than we've ever seen him. Not to say he'll be dead, but I do think he'll be more on the tired side than we've ever seen him in a fight. And I think it will lead to a subsequent loss. I think Jose Aldo might get it done third round TKO for the first time.
Wow.
Merab has never been finished by strikes, but I think Jose will do it.
Mark, give it to us.
I fucking loved that breakdown because you know where I'm going in this fight. Surprisingly to me, Merab is the betting favorite. It's basically even, but he's minus 130 and Jose is plus 110. Didn't expect that. I thought it'd be close, but I thought Jose'd be favored. So yeah, I mean, Omar gave you a great summary there. We are going to see Jose's takedown defense, which is legendary, tested in a way like maybe we never have before. The only comparison in his career that I can think of is his fights at 145 against Frankie Edgar. And obviously his defensive wrestling held up in those. Granted, now he is older. Granted, Merab is maybe even more Energizer Bunny than Frankie Edgar was, if that's possible. Yep. So who knows? They are in big cage, which is the key. It gives Aldo a little more room to move, to keep space. His defensive movement has always been fantastic. He does so well to keep that space between as you move to him. He's always stepping away. It's hard to get in on his hips. It's hard to get in to grab a hold of him in a clinch. The big cage will help with that. He is big and strong for bantamweight as well, which has been helpful for him since he's been down at this weight class. And Merab is hittable. We've seen it before. We just saw it against Marlon Moraes, who, frankly, I do not rate as highly of a striker as I rate Jose Aldo. So I think Jose is going to find some clean shots here. I think this is a big step up for Merab. Like, he's got 7 wins in the UFC, yeah. But as you mentioned, he's there. Casey Kenny, John Dotson, Cody Stamen, Marlon Moraes, who was at the end of his career. Like, they're not bums, of course, at all. They certainly ain't Jose Aldo. So it's a big step. I think Aldo can do it. I feel like a lot of people think this is going to be where Aldo's, kind of dream run to one more title shot ends. I think he can do it. I think there may be like a strong 3 minutes from Merab somewhere, 2-3 minutes. If he does get a takedown at some point, get some control. But I think outside of that, I think Aldo's winning the exchanges, and I think he's hurting them all fight long. Merab is hittable. We've seen it, and I think I'll say Aldo wins a decision. I really, really want to say Aldo by KO or TKO because I believe there's going to be a big shot or two in this fight for sure, and that it could be over. My concern is just how aggressively Aldo will jump on it, that maybe he won't necessarily, and Merab does recover really well. So I almost picked third round TKO, but I'm going to say a decision where Merab kind of makes it there despite being hurt.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a patented Jose Aldo timed knee on the takedown.
Thought about that too.
It'd be vintage Aldo for sure.
So Mark is taking Aldo by decision?
Yeah.
Omar said Aldo by finish.
Third round.
TKO in what, the fourth? Third.
Mm-hmm.
I will go against you two gentlemen, and I am taking Merab Dvalishvili, who I'm a little surprised that he's the favorite, to be honest. That being said, I think he's going to live up to his nickname, the Machine, and I think he's just going to do what he needs to do across 15 minutes. He's going to be on Jose Aldo like white on rice. He's going to be Jose's backpack for 15 minutes, and I think we're going to see Dvalishvili score another decision victory on the career. He's going to get to 15-4, and the biggest win of his career thus far over Jose Aldo.
Like it.
That being said, let's go
We have some
on
difference.
to second weekend in a row. The UFC is giving us kind of a weird co-main. I mean,
Oh, I got
certainly
no
has
problem with this co-main.
two guys that are both coming off consecutive losses
Yeah,
in the
fair.
co-main event of a pay-per-view is a little weird, but different from last weekend. These guys both are bringing in quite a bit of star power to the cage in the co-main. That being Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold going down at 185 pounds. So both of these guys bring a lot of power and a lot of skill into the octagon at middleweight. So you have Borrachinha Paulo Costa from Brazil, of course, the 31-year-old, the younger man. He's 13-2 as a pro. Of his 13 wins, 11 of them have come by way of knockout or TKO. He is, like I said, coming off back-to-back losses at the hands of Marvin Vettori back in October, and before that, a year before that, his somewhat embarrassing loss when he challenged for the title against Israel Adesanya. Luke Rockhold on the other side of the cage, 16-5 as a pro. Wow, I didn't realize his record was so small. Also excellent, but also a smaller record. I would think he would have like 5 to 10 more fights on his record. Much older man, 37 years old. He is also much taller at 6'3" tall. And he is also coming off back-to-back losses at the hands of Jan Blachowicz back in 2019 and about a year before that, over a year before that, a year and a half before that almost, he got knocked out by Yoel Romero. Okay, Mark. Take this first. Take us through your thought process for this fight between two middleweights who are both looking to get back into the win column. Paulo Costa, Luke Rockhold. Go.
I'll be honest, I don't have a huge thought process on this one. By the way, I do agree with you that Aldo and Rob would have made more sense as the co-main over these two, but I do like this fight. I'm intrigued by the Rockhold comeback. I'll give you the odds quick. It's Costa at minus 350 as the favorite. Luke is plus 275 as the dog. When I said I don't have many thoughts, I would love to give you more of a breakdown here, emphasize why I think Luke could do it. It's just hard to pick his chin to hold up against the fucking hammers that we know Paulo Costa is going to be throwing. It's the only thing I can think about when I try to break down this fight. I mean, Luke hasn't fought in 3 years. He hasn't cut to middleweight in 4.5 years, which is a long ass fucking time. That concerns me even more in regards to his chin. If he'd ever get this fight to the ground, who knows what he could pull off. Luke is, super skilled. Obviously, he's a former champion. But as much as Paulo Costa gets clowned, like, the wine against Izzy and the 20 pounds overweight against Vettori, like, the man stood in there and fucking banged with Marvin Vettori for 25 minutes in a fight that he nearly could have won. Like, I don't know how Luke Rockhold stands across from that same fighter and doesn't fall down. I think it's going to happen in the first or the second round. Paulo Costa KO. I guess I got to pick one. Late first round, knockout.
Omar.
Yeah, it's hard to look. Luke's chin is suspect to say the least. Here's my thing though. Luke has been very public on Instagram and stuff like that with, videos and stuff that he throws up. The kid looks good, man. Looks good. He's training. All the preparation leading up to this, he looks really good. The other thing is he's training with Priaulx now. And to train with the man who basically was responsible for training the man that knocked you out, that says something about Luke's character, about Priaulx's character, but more about Luke's character and his ability to sort of be like, I need to know that. I need to know these tricks. I need to know what I obviously don't know. And I'd like to think that as arrogant as Luke is publicly about a lot of things, I would like to think that there is still a martial artist inside of him, a humble martial artist inside of him that knows that there are gaps in his game, whatever those gaps are, and that he still needs to fix them and work on them and continue to train and continue to evolve. I can't imagine he's taking the last 3 years to do dick all, right? He's talked about, some trials and tribulations he's had in his life over the last few years, relationship wise, having gone through the loss of a pregnancy. I think there was an abortion involved, but all these things that he's gone through, all the time that he spent trying to work through this, I think his mentality is also in the right mindset, is in the right space as well, because he had in one of the many interviews he's been giving recently, he's been talking about he doesn't need this. And that's true. I don't think anybody on this earth will look Luke Rockhold in the face and say, you need to fight. That man at this point could GQ his ass with anybody he wants and get millions of dollars and never get his face touched again for the rest of his life in a bad way. Right? But he wants this. This is what he wants to do. This is his love. This is his passion. I don't know if it's the logical call. It probably isn't. But there is something that Luke Rockhold has really been able to do over these last few months specifically, but definitely over the last couple of years, to really make me believe that he's got something on this comeback. I want to believe it. I want to ride with him. I've never been a huge fan of Luke Rockhold's bullshit, but lately I don't know. He's growing on me, and I don't particularly like Paulo Costa as a human being. So I'm gonna ride with Luke Rockhold with this one, right into the ground if possible. But I'm gonna ride with Luke Rockhold. I'm gonna say that he catches him with one of those crazy ass kicks at some point. I'm gonna go with Luke Rockhold KO round 2. I think he puts this. I think he puts this piece of steel out cold.
Wow. I want to say quick before Mike goes, I agree with every vibe and feeling that you just expressed about Luke. It's the same way I've been feeling since he's been on this whole comeback trail, giving these interviews and everything. He just got matched up with Paulo Costa, which fucked it up for me.
I feel you.
Mike, what do you got?
I used to be a big Rockhold fan, man. He kind of lost me somewhere along the way.
I think he lost.
I'm not going to say I jumped off the bandwagon when he lost to Bisping in their second fight, when he lost the belt to Bisping, because that would make me sound like a bandwagoner. But I more so lost touch with Rockhold. I lost touch with him. He was my boy. He stopped returning my texts. No. I fell out of fandom of his I don't know, because of his awkwardness on like interviews and microphones, and he tries to cut promos and he just falls flat. I feel like his looks and his like chiseled handsomeness are really dissonant with his like lack of speaking charisma. Because sometimes he tries to cut a promo, sometimes he's trying to just kind of be real. He kind of flips between the two. Sometimes he just seems confused to me as to what kind of card he's playing. All that to be said, I hope he wins this fight. I'm rooting for Luke Rockhold because I would love him to be relevant again at 185 pounds in the UFC. I do not think that's going to happen. I think that the deck is stacked against Rockhold in this fight for a few reasons. I mean, even without considering Paulo Costa, his opponent, there are just too many variables for me to pick Rockhold to begin with. The inactivity, the knockout losses, back-to-back knockout losses, over a year apart, and then extra time off. Now he's been away for 3 years?
Yep.
And to come back again against another guy who is an absolute bruiser in Costa. So Costa had his blip against Israel Adesanya, which now I would consider a blip. Up to that point, Costa looked like an absolute wrecking ball at 185 pounds. He comes back and he loses a close fight and a good scrap against Vettori. So Costa has one blip. Rockhold has much more than that. Okay, you consider his loss to Bisping in their second fight, in the championship fight, to be a blip, right? He got caught. He didn't take Bisping seriously because he already finished him in their first fight. He comes back, he TKOs David Branch, but then he comes back, he gets absolutely ran over by Yoel Romero. He comes back a year and a half later and gets, again, run over by Jan Blachowicz at 205. So Rockhold at this point for me, he's got to show me that he can hang again with a guy with serious power, and he's probably going to get touched by Costa. And at this point, I lack trust in his chin. So just like Mark, I had already written down before we started this show that I'm going to take Costa by knockout at the end of round 1.
I hope when Luke listens to our show, as he always does, that he will recognize I'm on TV.
Your faith.
Now.
I'm rooting for him.
Me too, bro.
And I was never. This is the first time in my life I've been a Luke fan. I don't think I've ever rooted for him in a fight in my life.
Wow.
I've rooted for him in the
I'm
past,
the
but he's
of you guys.
There are real points of like major dickheadedness from him that for a while I just
That was always
not.
my issue.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Every time I saw him, I was like, "Fuck this guy."
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've come around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right, boys. Main event time. UFC 278 on the marquee of this pay-per-view. Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman, defending his UFC welterweight title against the man himself, Leon Rocky Edwards. Okay. Oh, I didn't have Edwards' shit pulled up real quick. Let me pull it up.
Unprofessional.
God damn it. All right, here we go. We have the challenger, Leon Edwards, from the UK, from England. He is 30 years old, a younger man. He is 19-3 as a pro with one no contest. Stands at 6 feet tall. He has never been finished either by knockout or submission. His 3 losses have only come as decisions and a no contest against Bilal Muhammad. No, I'm sorry. That's the no contest.
Yeah.
His 3 losses, what were they? Oh, a DQ. Way back in 2012. He had a loss by DQ. His other 2 losses came by decision. One of them was a split. So he's riding quite the lengthy unbeaten streak coming into Saturday night's title fight, which I believe is his first title challenge in the UFC.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Nope, you're right.
Standing across from him is going to be the toughest challenge possible at 170 pounds on this day, that being Kamaru Usman. He is American, I believe, by nationality now, although I think he was born in Nigeria.
Correct.
Correct.
He was.
20-1 as a pro, guys. This man is serious. He only lost his second pro bout back in May of 2013. He has been undefeated since, winning the next 19 fights. He's undefeated in the UFC, of course. He's undefeated in title fights now. He's unbelievable, this guy. And he's only getting better and better. 9 knockouts, 1 sub on his record. So there you have it. Mark, I'll shoot it over to you first.
Ugh.
Give us your take. Give us your pick of this awesome welterweight title showdown between Usman and Edwards.
I thought I was safe there. I won first on the last one. I thought I was going to get to hear Omar first because I am super fucking torn
I'm not even going to give
on what I want to do
myself credit for, like, keeping things fresh. It's just random sometimes. I'm like, fuck it. Who went first last time? I don't know.
So you basically pointed this out, but I will reiterate. Leon Edwards has 3 losses in his career. 1 is the DQ. The split is a fight he absolutely won, leaving one loss, and it is to Kamaru Usman.
Kamaru Usman.
That is it. So the dude's resume is unbelievable. He is a big dog. He is plus 300. Usman is minus 400. I didn't think it'd be that wide. I feel like Edwards is not getting respect. I will happily sprinkle something on Leon Edwards at plus 300 because I think this is a close fucking fight. First off, this fight is enormous. It is huge, and no one seems to care. It's mind-blowing to me. I don't get how there's no buzz on this fight. It is actually the 2 longest UFC win streaks to ever meet in a title fight. I believe it's 15 for Usman and 10 for Leon. I think you could check those numbers, but whatever the numbers are, I know that's a fact. It is the 2 longest win streaks to ever go up against each other in a title fight. So that's a big fucking deal, and it feels like there should be more buzz on this fight. But Leon Edwards, and I'm not even a Leon Edwards guy, so you know this is real. He is criminally underrated in every area. Like, I think he might be the toughest matchup that Kamaru Usman has had thus far. Tougher than Colby. And the reason I say that is because I've made this point before. Everyone Usman fights, he has somewhere he can go. Like when he fought Jorge, he's able to go to his grappling. The second time, he's got Jorge thinking so much about the takedown that he's able to knock him out. But it's because he has that wrestling advantage that Jorge has to think about that. Against Colby, yes, him and Colby are a great matchup because the wrestling doesn't play. But Usman, as we know, is the more dangerous striker. So as much as maybe Colby will land more at times, the bigger shots generally are going to come from Usman. So he has that. I was really intrigued when he fought Burns because that was one of those times where I was like, man, I don't know quite what the advantage is here, but he got it done. And this one is like that for me because the first time they fought, he was able to out-wrestle Leon Edwards with ease. Leon Edwards at that time was like, I don't even remember, 23, I think, and he was raw as hell, and he didn't even know what wrestling was. And he can wrestle now. Like, he has developed some really solid takedown defense. And on top of that, Leon is a dangerous striker. He stays so composed. He's a slicker striker than Kamaru is. He's smoother. He's nasty in the clinch. And I'm sure we're going to see him there. I don't know. There are a lot of reasons that are making me want to say Leon can get this done. I think we're going to see Kamaru look to wrestle more than he has in his recent fights. The question is going to be how effective can he be with it? Is he just so damn good that he will still get Leon down despite all the improvements Leon has made with his own wrestling? But if he can't, I mean, look at what Colby did once he got comfortable in that fight. His jab was landing. He realized he could take the shots. He started swinging that fight late. I'm referring to the second fight. If Usman's not getting Leon down and Leon can start to feel comfortable standing, it's going to be a lot more dramatic than what Colby was able to do late. So then you have Usman coming off a broken hand also and kind of almost rushing back like it's sooner than the timeline was supposed to be coming off the broken hand. It makes me wonder what camp has been like. It makes me wonder how willing he's going to be to throw it, and it's his power hand, which has become big for him lately. I don't know. I wanted to hear Omar's analysis so bad to see if there was something that he said first. I mean, that he said in there that made me go, oh, fuck, that's a great point. Before I had to make my pick. I haven't watched Countdown yet. I always love to watch Countdown when it's a fight this big, see what kind of vibe I get. Obviously, I'm only talking up Leon here because I don't need to talk up Kamaru. Everyone knows how fucking good Kamaru is. The guy is number 1 or 2 pound for pound fighter in the world right now. He's beating everybody in every which way. I do have a concern if Leon fades late, because Kamaru certainly won't, especially if it's going to be a grueling fight. I don't know. I don't think that someone's going to get finished. I think we're going to see the cards. Fuck it. Leon Edwards, 48-47.
Okay.
Oh boy. I would love to have some sort of analysis for you that would make you swing one way or the other, but the reality is I'm probably just as jacked as you are right now. Um, the truth is, when it comes to Kamaru Usman, this new version of him where we're relying on his striking a lot more than we were before, to me is still new. You know, for all the shit we gave Luke Rockhold and, about not having a fight in the last 3 years, and Paulo Costa's fought like once a year since like 2017. It's not like Paulo Costa's got like a ton of fights on his resume that Luke Rockhold doesn't. Kamaru Usman, however, Kamaru Usman is active. Kamaru Usman is active as shit. And so this new resurgence with his hands and now being something more than just a takedown threat and being held down, and you genuinely have to, worry about getting right-handed in the face. Gilbert Burns' case, getting jabbed in the face. It all, it's all going to translate with the power that Usman has. I think the real difference is that Leon Edwards is a legitimate striker. His wrestling, I think, it's so hard to say his wrestling is good enough to hold itself against Kamaru's, because Kamaru has a lifetime of wrestling. As good as Leon is, Leon has recently put the time into the wrestling, but it would be saying he's able to catch up to a lifetime in half that time, if that, fraction of it. And I don't know if that's really the case. It's very possible the skills that Leon has are able to, I wouldn't say nullify, but maybe reduce the amount of advantage that Usman might have in the grappling department, in the ground department. I think Usman is definitely going to be more apt to take it down to the ground than against the cage, because even against the cage, Edwards will throw elbows from a disadvantageous position against the cage. Leon Edwards will fight against the cage. On the ground, it becomes a lot more complicated, I would imagine. I feel like Edwards is way more well-rounded than Kamaru Usman is. However, I feel like where Kamaru Usman specializes might be enough to edge out those types of controlling moments. With all that being said, I'm still confused. And I don't really know who I want to pick here. I'm going with Leon Edwards. I'm gonna go with Leon Edwards by decision. I'm gonna do it. I'm doing this. I'm doing this because the man has talked up a decent game recently. He's got a legitimate resume of people in this division. Okay, this is not like a Khabib or an Islam resume or people who are kind of coming up in the rankings that like didn't have a ton of quality wins. The man has Vicente Luque on his resume, Brian Barberina. He's got Donald Cerrone, Gunnar Nelson, Rafael dos Anjos. These are real dudes that present real challenges that he has been able to fight, beat, walk right through. I'm going to go with Edwards by decision. I'm going to stick with it.
I cannot believe that I picked Leon Edwards and then someone else also picked Leon Edwards. What's Mike? Are you picking Leon Edwards?
I don't think he's picking Leon Edwards.
I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's picking Leon Edwards.
I mean, I was almost persuaded by your arguments, both of you. Let me write this down. I'm recording the picks.
So crazy.
It is done. I already wrote mine down beginning of the night. I'm going to go with Usman by decision, but I think it's gonna be another war that he has to weather. To me, guys, I think it could be a close fight. I hope it's a close fight, and to me, it's just I'm gonna give Usman the I never know how to say his fucking last name, by the way. I've heard both.
Yeah, I say both.
Usman, I'm gonna give him the edge in terms of strength of schedule. You know, obviously defending the belt, fighting and beating the guys at the very, very top of 170 pounds. Whereas a guy like Leon Edwards, he has names on his resume more recently like Gunnar Nelson, Donald Cerrone, Brian Barberena. Yeah, he beat Luque back in 2017. But other than that, I'm going to give the edge to Usman in terms of strength of schedule. I'm going to say Usman by decision, but a war. And there you have it.
I just realized my most confident prediction on this fight is that it's 48-47. Somebody.
You said Edwards 48-47.
Yeah. But I'm saying if you
That's
want
what it will be.
my most confident take is that is the score. Somebody.
I will say I think
it's going to be close.
I haven't been this intrigued in an Usman matchup since Gilbert because I really don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there's real arguments to be made for both. Even the Colby one, I was always pretty sure Kamaru was going to beat Colby in those fights. Granted, I don't like Colby, but that's not really the point. I'm still fairly confident that Kamaru was going to win those fights. The Gilbert one I was less sure of just because of what Gilbert presents or should have presented. Didn't, but should have. And this could very well be the same thing. You know, Leon on paper presents a lot of issues for Kamaru. That doesn't necessarily mean...
really confident, too.
Yeah, it doesn't mean, though, on fight night that's what's going to happen. But, man...
Except Nate Diaz almost knocked him out.
Well... But that he started, giving Nate the finger and clowning a little bit. He was winning so clearly. I think he got lazy. Clearly. He's not going to. He's not going to get like that against Kamaru.
I'm just kidding. All right, boys. Well, it's getting late, so let's end with a little bit of trivia for episode 56. Here we go. Got one little piece of trivia for you boys. Let's see how it goes. A little atypical of what I usually do. This is a fill in the blank. Let's see who can get closer.
Oh boy.
Since its inception at UFC 1 in Denver, Colorado on November 12th, 1993, how many total events has the UFC done? Who can get closest? Fill in the blank. Give me your best fucking guess. I didn't want to make it multiple choice because I just felt like...
Did you say when UFC 1 was?
Yeah, November 12th, 1993.
I'm going to go with
Denver, Colorado.
435 events.
435, okay.
It's a very Price is Right number there.
$1, Bob. Mark, say
right?
1. No, I'm not going to do closest without going over. I'm just going to say closest.
And we're just we're not doing none of these contender series and toughs and none of this bullshit, right?
No. Well, a tough finale counts.
But
not
a fight,
tough.
Right, but not tough itself. Yeah.
The fucking list that I found. All right, this was the fucking number. Okay?
I'm gonna say.
Watch Mark guesses it to the
T, motherfucker.
No. Fuck. 1900.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. The correct
that's
answer.
too high. That's too high.
The correct answer is 617,
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I just realized I fucked up math.
which is still a shit ton of fights, a shit ton of events.
You went real Brian Battle on that one.
I did wrong math in my head. I got really deep into math and I was adding things up and then I multiplied something back.
Yeah, I basically did
617 to date.
I did because you've got 278 pay-per-views at this point.
Right.
So then I just tried to guess how many fucking fight nights there were, and I figured probably 150, 200, but apparently not. Apparently there's a lot more than that. So, damn.
Also, bear in mind, if the average number of bouts per event is somewhere in the neighborhood of
what was the number?
617. If the average number of bouts per event is somewhere between 10 to 15, that means that they've done like 7,000 plus fights.
Oh, yeah, dude.
That's
Do you have
insane.
any idea how many hours of fucking combat sports we've all watched? Like, really sit back and think about that one day, because we have watched thousands of hours of fighting. Thousands.
It's true.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
I still have never trained an hour of my life, a minute of my life. I've never trained in any kind of combat sport. Other than when I was a kid, I did karate.
I couldn't imagine. I can't imagine me watching this sport and not training. Like, every time I see something fucking cool, I'm like, I gotta go to the gym and try that shit. I can't imagine not training.
That's cool. That is cool.
I love it.
Cool. All right, folks. It's late for us, all three of us, here in the Eastern time zone. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy the fights. UFC 278, Usman versus Edwards 2. There's also some PFL action this weekend, PFL 9 of the 2022 season. Watch Kayla Harrison demolish some other girl. Guys, any parting shots?
Yeah, I'm going to watch Countdown, and I'm going to see if my vibe changes more toward Leon or over toward Kamaru, and I'm going to comment on our video if I have a more definitive feeling here. But for now, we're rolling with Leon.
Don't forget to watch your Embedded, too. We've got Embedded now that it's a pay-per-view, so we've got a little bit more, too.
Sure.
Also, for those of you, watch BKFC if you guys are into that. Remember Michael Venom Page versus Mike Perry going down.
That's right. And I forgot to mention earlier on, do us a favor, drop a comment below. Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our takes on tonight's show, especially if you disagree. Let's have some lively debate. All right, boys.
I would love to know what the fans out there think about Usman versus Edwards. I would love to see what their picks are, because this shit is a literal coin flip, I think.
Yeah, man.
I would love to see how many people can hit the subscribe button. Just saying.
Let's go. Let's go. We're trying to get to that first milestone, man. All right, guys. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and we will reconvene next week, breaking down these fights and much more. We'll see you guys soon.
Peace.
Peace.